Welcome, everybody, back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Brabant. Alongside me is Logan Camden, and you already know the drill. It is Sunday night, so we are going to be breaking down all of the Week 13 action around the NFL. But this week, we are going to go back. We're going to talk about the Thanksgiving games, which were awesome, that we haven't had a chance to discuss yet. We had a great Black Friday game, and we had a couple of really good ones today, including, Logan, a Sunday night finale that, if you're looking at it on paper, you wouldn't have expected to be a very fun, interesting game, but it was. The 3-win Commanders pushed this to the absolute brink in overtime, but the Denver Broncos escape yet again, Logan. They are now sitting at 10-2, but I have to ask, are you impressed by their performance in this game?
In big moments, boners rise, Carson. I thought we established this previously. It went to overtime. I already knew exactly what was going to happen, man. It's a clutch situation. You need a drive. Who else? Bo Nix. There's no quarterback other than Bo that I would rather have under center in a big spot, man. He's proven it time and time again this season. Backs against the wall. Gimme Bo.
Okay, great take. What's your actual opinion on what happened?
I think the Broncos are flawed. Now, I'll say this. I was wrong about Denver, and I apologize, and I'm going to put Denver in my top 10 power rankings. I won't put them at number 1 because I have something going on with that list right now. I just got some bad juju.
You're doing them a favor then.
I am doing them a favor. I do think Denver belongs in my top 10, though, and I think I've been wrong about them. Like, I do think this defense is so damn disruptive, and I want to give Marcus Mariota credit tonight. He was slinging the hell out of the rock. Mariota played an awesome game, and he was giving Denver's defense all they could handle. Yeah. This is a special defense. I think they are the best unit in the NFL. Them in Houston, take your pick. I would take Denver, and that's why they belong. Like, when I'm looking at some of the other teams, and we'll talk about them more in depth later, like Indianapolis potentially falling apart with Daniel Jones's injury and Sauce Gardner's injury, and the AFC South race getting interesting. Like, there's a chance they could just miss the playoffs entirely. Denver, they've got a very clear path to the playoffs, and the defense is one of the best units in the league that has consistently shown up in every big spot, in every situation, no matter how tired they are. Like, Denver's defense has delivered, and they have been consistently great. It feels like every single week. I think the offense is majorly flawed, Carson. I do not think Bo Nix is a good quarterback from quarter 1 to quarter 4. Quarter 4, bam. OT, bam.
Bo's ready to go. In quarter 4 today,
he did suck in
that was a great drive.
I have to generalize, man, because Bo's not very good. So you have to pretend like he's nice, right?
Right.
That's the big issue that I run into when I'm talking about Bo Nix as a quarterback, is that there's not a lot of great things to reference when he plays football. But I think the offense is in a little bit of trouble because J.K. Dobbins isn't coming back. Like, I do think the running game is going to be more limited. But it's a formula that could work well enough in a very flawed AFC. You know, every contender is flawed, Carson, and Denver's still on my back end of contenders, but I think they're legit enough. That being said, you see in this one, like, they can kind of play in a tight game with anyone. We saw it against the Raiders. We see it with the Commanders. Like, every game that the Commanders win, if it is against the Kansas City Chiefs of the world, if it's against the Washington Commanders of the world, it's probably going to look something like this. But I think the defense is the best in the league, and that's why I think they're legit.
The defense is phenomenal. I don't think they had their best performance in this one. I mean, obviously a huge clutch play on the 2-point conversion there, but Mariota, maybe I should be pronouncing that T a little bit more distinctly based on how Collinsworth kept hitting the Mariota today. Perhaps a revelation now, a decade into Marcus Mariota's career, on how we should be saying his name. But he was balling, dude. I thought that he was so impressive. I mean, his ability to navigate some of these like collapsing pockets and escape, and some of the throws he made on the run, some of the scrambles, and some of the clutch plays. I mean, digging their way out of that 3rd and 25, which was bullshit. If not for 2 nonsense penalties, they shouldn't have even been in that spot, but he got them out of it. The 4th down, having the ability to escape, to make that throw so they could draw the PI. Having the touchdown wiped away, rightfully so, by a holding penalty, setting you up with a 3rd and 14, and then you sling a very near touchdown the next play, and then you still have to dig your team out on 4th down, and you connect with Terry McLaurin on that slant. Like, he just made play after play. It was not easy. Like, if you look at the yards per play for the Commanders offense today, they only averaged 4.9. That is not a high number, but they generated 30 first downs. I mean, they just kept doing just enough, which is really all that you can hope for against this Denver defense. And I give Mariota a ton of credit. I thought it was a great performance from him. I will say I am not impressed by this performance from Denver. And you said it, like we've seen it against the Jets, a 2-point win, the Giants, a 1-point win, the Raiders, a 3-point win, and the Commanders, let's not get it twisted, they're bottom feeders. I mean, this is their 7th straight loss. And specifically, they're one of the worst defenses in the NFL. They're 30th in yards per drive allowed. They're 31st in points per drive allowed. I mean, just truly a horrific defense in every way. Probably the worst pass defense in football, disaster secondary. They get Daron Payne back in this one, who is one of their best defensive players. But I was very unimpressed with Denver's inconsistency moving the ball against what is a really, really shitty Washington defense, if we're just going to call it how it is. But like you said, they just did enough. And this year, that's the goal for a lot of teams, right? Survive and advance. I think that they are obviously in excellent position to win this division. And maybe that's the most important thing in their minds for a game like this. But again, does it encourage me when I think about how they shape up as a contender, how they compare to the elite teams? No, I want to see convincing performances. And Denver very, very rarely gives me a convincing performance. And specifically the offense. I understand they have 27 points today. That's with an extra period. They had 20 minutes in regulation against a truly atrocious defense and totally sputtered throughout the second half. I mean, they had a number of chances to try to put this game away, and the offense couldn't do it. So I'm not impressed. That's the reality, but they do get a win in this one. I will say that was a sick touchdown throw by Bo Nix. His second touchdown of the day, that was the coolest throw I've ever seen him make. It was just as cool as the interception thrown directly to Bobby Wagner was awful. But that's how it goes sometimes out here. I will say Pat Surtain, what a monster. I mean, I thought that consistently he did a hell of a job on Terry McLaurin. So, like, that's where you're absolutely right. This defense is so insane. We've talked about how historically great they are. It's like, even when Washington is able to put up points, able to move the football, it's hard. They have to work. They have to do something impressive just about every play. And that's what they did. And it still wasn't quite enough.
I don't know if this defense is going to end up with these other ones like immortalized with a Super Bowl, but they remind me of some legendary defenses from the mid 2000s. Like when I watch them, Denver makes me nostalgic of old football, the 2000s, man. Like they really remind me of like the 08 Steelers. And like, I mean it in the sense of like, the pressure that they exert on the opposing team's quarterback consistently, how prepared all of their guys are, and quite literally just the talent they have on this defense, top to bottom. Like it reminds me of some of the legendary defenses that we've seen, like the 08 Steelers, the Bucks of the mid 2000s. Like this defense is special. I really enjoy watching them play, and I feel bad for them that they, one, have to be on the field so often, but two, just can't get reinforcements, because I know it has to be infuriating for Denver fans and this defense that, like, and I get it. Denver fans may be frustrated that we don't give this team enough props, but it's like, I think we understand how good this defense is. We just keep pointing out the fact that, like, it has to be infuriating that they just can't give their guys more cushion, more breathing room. Like every game with Denver, you feel like, okay, they've won 10 games, but they're playing with their food. Like they never slam the door. They never clean off their plate. Like that's the part that just leaves you wanting more with Denver.
Yeah, I don't even know if I would use the term playing with their food, because that implies like that there is this explosive, dominant offense.
You're right.
Like some sleeping giant. Like, no, they're just fundamentally limited. They're a bad offense. They're 25th in yards per drive. They're 22nd in points per drive. They had 18 points a few weeks ago, and then 10 points, and then 22 last week. And that was a great win against the Chiefs. The offense did just enough. But again, the defense does so much. And of course, that is a really valid way to win football games. But as we've talked about, I do think that offensive firepower, being able to trust your ability to move the ball at an elite level, is so important if you want to go deep in the playoffs. This Denver defense is nuts. Absolutely. But like you're saying, dude, they open the fourth quarter with a 6-point lead, and Bo throws a pick that now forces them to defend a short field in their own territory. They force a field goal. Denver gets the ball back. Okay, we're up a score. Let's get a drive together. 3 and out. They force a 3 and out. Denver gets it back. Another opportunity to close the door. They punt. They get another stop on Washington. Okay, now we got to shut the door, man. We forced back-to-back punts. We're up in this football game. Denver 3 and out, and then Washington is able to put together this kind of miraculous 18-play drive, and Denver still holds them to a field goal. I mean, time runs out, but like you said, they just have so much pressure on them as a defense. And even though they were able to get by against the Eagles, right, holding them to 17, they were able to get by against the Chiefs, holding them to 19. It's also the reason they are in so many really, really close, nerve-wracking games against flat-out bad, sometimes horrible football teams. So I had Denver in my contender rankings. I had them at number 10. That feels right to me. That feels like the right amount of respect to give to this defense, acknowledging it's an open year that can absolutely win you a playoff game. Maybe win you two, but the concerns I have about their offense are ultimately too significant for me to bump them much higher, or certainly to be moved by a performance like this. That being said, Logan, you mentioned the curse that you have put on whoever you place in that number one spot in your contender rankings. It happened again this week, like clockwork. It's actually crazy. The LA Rams were on top of the world, Logan. They were cruising. They were beating everybody until you put them in your number one spot, and then they fell to the Carolina Panthers. What did you take away from this game, and are you worried about the Rams after this?
I am worried a little bit about the Rams, just for some context for some people who have not been following the voodoo magic that I've had on these football teams.
Let's go through the whole history.
Yeah, I did it a couple of weeks ago, but I'll do it again preseason. I took Baltimore as my number one team, and we know how they stumbled out of the gates, and Lamar Jackson got hurt. Week 2, I pivoted. The dominating Green Bay Packers I took as my number one team, and then they lost to Cleveland and tied versus Dallas. Week 4, I pivoted. I said, wow, this offense is unstoppable. I'm going to put the Bills at number 1, and then they lost to New England in Atlanta. Week 6 through 11, I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to the Chiefs. You know, they've won all these Super Bowls, been in these big games, and they lose to Buffalo and Denver, and now week 13, I'm just mad. I like the Rams. I didn't want to do this. And against Carolina, like, I don't know what I'm going to do this next one, man, but I'm going to be very, very careful. I think I'm going to pick a team I really don't like. It might be the Dallas Cowboys. It might be the Denver Broncos. And I'll just say, okay, prove it to me that you're good. And so either 1, the curse will be broken and we can all be freed from this, or 2, I can just I can just flex and be like, oh yeah, Dallas won. And now I can be like a George Pickens fan again, or, you know, a Denver fan now.
And a Dak Prescott lover and enthusiast, and finally give him the respect that he deserves after all these years.
Or the curse works and those teams lose and I win either way. But I don't know, man. I don't get it. Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about the Rams, really just their secondary, and it's really one guy, and I don't feel any differently about the one flaw that I pointed out. This was the reason that the only reason that I was skeptical about Los Angeles was the secondary difference. And I specifically said that in our last power ranking show when I was talking about the differences between my faith in Seattle and Los Angeles. Seattle took the secondary battle and LA took the quarterback battle. I think quarterback's more important. And so I sided with the Rams. I said I thought that they were neck and neck. It was like a coin toss to me. And that, to me, is what got the Rams beat in this game, obviously, along with the 3 catastrophic turnovers.
Yeah.
That goes without saying. Like, they don't lose this game without Stafford throwing a red zone interception, a pick 6, and having a strip sack fumble that takes the, you know, ball out of their hands at the end of this football game. But the other 2 big plays that really swung this one were the touchdown to Ted McMillan at the end of the game that ices this one, and the touchdown to Jalen Coker. They were both against Emmanuel Forbes. And I liked Emmanuel Forbes coming out of college. He was a playmaker. He was dynamic. I think he had, like, I don't know, I want to say 4 or 5 pick 6s his senior year. He was insane. The knock on him is that he's really small. He's 6 foot tall, 180 pounds. And in both of those matchups, those are really big physical guys. Tet, 6'5", 212. And I think Coker's like 6'2", 212. Like, he's a big dude too. And, like, I think Forbes can play, but he's not a one-on-one man corner. And in both of those matchups, he just gets cooked, beat one-on-one for big shot play TDs. And I just don't think he's a guy that should be giving you – he shouldn't be a top 3 corner on a roster for you, giving you big spots. Because at some point, inevitably, Carolina is going to draw something up and say, we're going to get a one-on-one with one of these guys. And whoever it is, right? If a team has that archetype of receiver, that's something that they can exploit. It's not the biggest thing. Like, when I think about the Rams, they're not going to slip too much. They still might be my favorite in the NFC after this week. I'm going to have to think about it. But, like, I'm not worried at all about really the rest of this team. They exert an insane amount of pressure on the opposing team's quarterbacks. This was the worst game Stafford has played all year. He's a Hall of Famer, I think, and a top 6 quarterback in the league. He had been, in my opinion, the best or the second best quarterback in football coming into this week.
Yeah.
They've got 2 elite wideouts, Puka, the number 1. Devontae leads the NFL in TDs, and they've got 2 dynamic running backs. Like, no, I still think the Rams are one of my top Super Bowl contenders, but I really wish they would have addressed that one flaw. Like, that is the one thing that I've been harping on with this team that I thought could get them, and I thought that was a pretty big component along with the turnovers in this game that is a reason they lost, and something that could potentially come back to bite them in a big spot down the road.
Obviously, they got to get Quentin Lake back out there. And we're talking about different positions here because Quentin Lake mostly plays that nickel corner spot. But just overall, when it comes to the health of that secondary, I understand what you're saying. That's been like the one thing that we have seen get the Rams a couple times. I still think when you get Lake back on the field, if you compare it to everybody else's flaws and everybody else's concerns, it doesn't compare in magnitude to me.
I mean, they've lost, 3 games by...
yeah.
2 of their games have been by 4 points. Like, the Rams have been so close in every game.
They've all been super close one-score games, and I also think we saw them have like a stretch of really great pass defense overall. I think coming into this game, they were 6th in net yards per attempt allowed through the air. Obviously, them having the ridiculous pass rush that they do makes life a lot easier on them in that regard. So I'm not worried about the Rams. I mean, they finally lost one, right? Everybody who has been sitting on top of the world this year has come crashing down at some point. I do like their formula the most. I was saying last week that they had emerged to me as like a pretty clear Super Bowl favorite, and they still feel like the clear number 1 to me, because even in this game, they moved the ball with ease, dude. Like, it does just feel like a fluky loss to me in a lot of ways. They averaged 7.4 yards per play on offense since 2019. When teams hit that mark coming into today, they were 49-4. You're winning over 90% of the time if you're moving the ball that efficiently. And the Rams are now the 5th loss in that period, but it's really just because of bad turnovers, a deflected pick in the end zone. Obviously, the most painful turnovers are the ones that swing points directly on either side of the field, where you walk away empty deep in enemy territory, or you give them an easy scoring opportunity, or of course you literally give them points like Stafford did with a really bad pick 6. I mean, just a poorly placed ball that he should not have thrown. That route was totally covered and a little bit late, which you just can't do on an outbreaking route like that. That was really bad, but totally uncharacteristic. And then the strip sack, like, they still put up 28 points. They were still right there. So it is a bad loss, but the offensive stuff that kept them from putting up whatever they could have otherwise, if it's 35, I mean, they had 6 red zone trips in this game. Like, that's just not stuff that I worry about being replicated for them. So it is an ugly loss, but not one that concerns me, not one that knocks the Rams off of my top spot, because to the best of my knowledge, I don't curse teams automatically by putting them at number 1. So I will keep the Rams there unless things change more significantly. How about the Carolina side of this, Logan? Because they are now a game above 500. They're only half a game out of the lead for the division. In recent weeks, they've beaten the Packers and they've beaten the Rams. And I know neither you nor I has been the highest on Carolina. Are you moved by this game from their perspective?
I wouldn't say I'm moved in the sense that I think Carolina's a contender. Obviously, there's a statistical chance that they could win the division. I would still take Tampa Bay. There's a chance. I think Carolina's a really well-coached team. I think this season is a reflection on Dave Canales and what he is as a coach. Like, I always feel like situationally this team is prepared. And people may not agree with this, but like, I think Dave Canales has actually enhanced Bryce Young as much as he can. Like, I don't really know how much better Bryce Young would look somewhere else. I think that you may be underwhelmed by what he's giving you as a number 1 pick, but I probably think this is as good as he would look in any situation. I think he's maximized what this defense and this running game can give you. Like, I just think this is all about Dave. And I liked him when he came over from Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And I still like him. This team is just obviously not talented like a 7-win team. Like it kind of warps my brain. This is not hate to Carolina, but like I don't think Bryce Young is a starting quarterback in the NFL. And he played a great game today. They were great on third down. He was accurate. He was on time. All 3 of those TDs, he put balls exactly where they needed to be. And who knows? Like maybe he could be a back end starter. Like I'm just saying he's in that range. He's not like I don't think he's a franchise quarterback. I can definitively say that.
Yeah.
But I'm really impressed with Dave and how he has gotten. Anytime a coach can ring the towel like this, and what I mean by that is just get all the talent out of his team.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something to be said of bad teams that are like dysfunctional. The Raiders for so long, right? Like the Raiders are a bad team.
And the Raiders right now.
Yeah. But like it's an organizational problem, and it goes from the coaching staff to the higher ups, the franchise. When a team can finally move on from that, where Carolina has been for so long, I think it really reflects the management and the coaching, and that's what I'm moved by. I may not be moved by Carolina as this world beater or something like that, but I think they have moved themselves from cellar dwellers. The Falcons are there now. I'll put them there. They belong right in the trash bin. Carolina is in this respectable. If you fuck around and you play your D game, if you don't bring it, Carolina's going to catch you lacking. Like I think they have reached a respectable tier, and I just got to give a ton of credit to Dave Canales for that.
I agree with you there. I think that Dave, and I'm going to call him Dave, we are on a first name basis, obviously, both coming from the Tampa coaching tree. He is really good. That being said, I don't want to pour cold water on Carolina because honestly, you guys shouldn't even let me do that. Like this is the win of the season. This is a game in which you were double-digit underdogs. I certainly thought that the Rams were going to pretty comfortably win this football game, and Carolina comes out with this one. I do still think a lot of the indicators, I mean, you talk about just the talent on this football team, their defense, I still think is bad, flat out. Like they're 23rd in point differential. They're well below average in terms of points per drive on both sides of the ball, actually. So I can't sit here and say that they are good. I do still feel pretty confident that Tampa is going to win the division. Now, the 2 head-to-head games remaining between these 2 teams are going to be massive in that. But Carolina is going to be the underdog in both those games to me. They've got a game against Seattle in which I'll view them as significant underdogs. Like, they can prove me wrong. They've already overachieved my expectations. I did not think they would be a game above 500 13 weeks into the season, but I don't buy it in terms of them like being a legitimate playoff threat still. I think this game, though, is another fascinating example of the Bryce Young paradox, Logan. This is something that I've talked about a bit. Whenever you decide that you are completely done with Bryce Young, whenever you decide he just doesn't have it at all, Logan Camden starts making the Kenny Pickett comparisons. This is when he shows you a little magic. This is when he shows you a little something. I mean, this happened last year, obviously, where Carolina started the year at like a historically bad pace. Bryce was so brutal. He got benched for Andy Dalton. It was over. It had never been more over. And then he came back and down the stretch, right, was slinging the ball around the field, putting up some solid efficiency numbers. The Panthers offense started to look quite competent. They went like 4-5 down the stretch. And then he comes back out this year. And obviously Carolina has been a better team, although they had some ugly moments early in the year. But there's just a few games where you feel like there's a level of ineptitude at the quarterback position and physical limitations. And you put up 7 points on the Saints and it's just a brutal showing. And it's Bryce's 7th straight game where he throws for under 200 yards. And you just feel like, again, it's pretty much over with him. He comes out, he's balled out in 2 of the last 3 games, like he genuinely has. And those 4th down conversions, I mean, 2 beautifully placed balls, the second one perfectly layered, 2 scored touchdowns. That swung this game as much as the pick 6, as much as the turnovers from the Rams. Like, it was just the Panthers making some of those huge gotta have it plays on both sides of the ball. Obviously, the Rams are the clearly better football team, but that's how you win a game like that as an underdog. You make those few key plays. Am I saying, Logan, that I am moved by Bryce Young, that I think he is a starting quarterback or a franchise quarterback in the NFL? No, I'm not saying that. And ultimately, I do still think that overall, the results are underwhelming. I do think his physical limitations are significant. And I do think the biggest reason for this Panthers turnaround is what they found in the run game and the rushing attack that they have become after the first few weeks of the season. That is absolutely their strength as a football team. But I feel like I have to at least point out that this trend does consider, and he is being powered by whimsy, he's being powered by joy, he's being powered by magic, and you can't deny it because he made some clutch-ass plays today. And he throws a better ball than Kenny Pickett, and he's better than Kenny Pickett. Bam. There's your hot take.
They're the same guy.
No, they're not. Bryce's top 5 games in his career are all better than any game that Kenny has ever played. Fact.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett also had Matt Canada for a year and 2 years. And, I think you always have to consider the Matt Canada tax when you're talking about Steelers quarterbacks of that era. They're the same guy, man. They both are just mid.
Kenny Pickett never showed you a single flash in his entire career.
Bryce
shows you flashes. Bryce has nice touch.
He had like 2 games against the Ravens, and that was it. And it was nice.
Yeah, by your standards. Everybody outside of Pittsburgh could tell that Kenny sucked from the start. Again, Bryce isn't good, but Bryce
I still don't. I guess that's my thing. I'm just not moved.
Okay, I'm not moved either. But shout out to Carolina. You got to give them credit because this is obviously a huge, huge win for them. But ultimately, not really moving me for either team. Sometimes weird shit happens on Sundays and unexpected results happen, and it's not always the biggest deal in the world, big picture. However, I'll tell you what is a big deal, Logan. This trend that is emerging in the AFC South. We had a big head-to-head battle between the Texans and the Colts today, and these are 2 teams that in terms of record are trending in opposite directions. The Colts came out the gates. They were bludgeoning everybody. They got off to the hottest start in football. They have now lost 3 of 4. The Texans lost their first 3 games, were in this miserable place. They have now won 7 of their last 9, and we have 3 teams within 1 game in the standings in the AFC South. But what did you take away from this game, Logan? And are you at a place where you're seriously considering who the best team in this division is? Has that conversation reopened?
It's not reopened. I mean, I think I just feel differently now. I think I would favor Houston moving forward in the AFC South. I might have to drop the Colts out. I am worried about them with this Daniel Jones injury. I don't know. I mean, apparently, like, he's fractured his fibula, and apparently Sauce Gardner has a pretty major injury too. Like, I didn't like their secondary to begin with before they acquired Sauce, and then they got him and moved. And it's like, okay, well, if he's not going to be available, I'm right back to where I was with the secondary. And then Jones. Not that mobility is like a huge part of his game, but that's such a serious debilitating injury. And when we're talking about like them going on a playoff run, oh my God, I can't imagine Daniel Jones on a broken leg trying to go win 4 straight games, let alone winning a game. And like, it was comical in this game because they're going up against Houston, and Houston's got this ferocious, hellacious pass rush. And I think their offense has improved enough to a point where they're not among the worst in the league anymore. And that's enough of a difference where, with the injury concerns, I think I would take Houston. It starts with their defense. I mean, they're number 1 in EPA per play. They're number 1 in opponent passer rating and yards per attempt. I still think the Broncos have the best defense in the league. But like I said, it's a real debate. And I'm not going to fight you if you take Houston. And then the offense has improved. Shout out Davis Mills for keeping them afloat when CJ was hurt. But it seems like they're hitting their stride and figuring things back out. Like, Stroud is now back. I really like the dual running back setup and the stagger they're going with Marks and Chubb. But more importantly, like, the receivers are doing stuff. Collins, Higgins, Schultz. Like, this is a decent receiving core at this point. And so I'm still not moved to the point with the offense where I think the Texans are going to go win the Super Bowl or something like that. But if they can be average offense, top 2 defense in the league, like, that was the formula I was betting on with Houston before the season started, and then we just never saw it. Now it's materialized. The defense is one of the best in the league, and Again, I don't think this is an explosive, volatile offense, but as long as they're not bottom 5 in the league, I can buy Houston to be real, and the defense is ferocious. So I just feel bad for Colts fans, man. Like, I was just excited for them. There hadn't been a lot of joy and stuff to be excited about, but I think the Jags have probably leapfrogged them as well. I think I would go
Wow.
Houston, Jacksonville, Indianapolis. Daniel Jones has a broken leg, man. Like,
It is crazy. I don't even understand how he's playing through it. I've
same.
never fractured my fibula, but that is insane. That is toughness, and that is very, very commendable. But it's not just that. That is absolutely significant. I do just think recent weeks, we've seen the Colts offense held more in check. 3 of the last 4 weeks now, this team that, again, was kind of just blowing over everybody and moving the ball at will with ease through the air on the ground. We've talked about teams really prioritizing stopping the run as much as they can, limiting Jonathan Taylor more so, and putting more pressure on Danny Dimes in the passing attack to beat them through the air. And that's been an effective formula overall. And then it's just as much, if not more so, about what Houston is doing. Like, both of these teams have their elite unit, right? Like, the Colts have been the number 1 offense. The Texans, by some metrics, have been the number 1 defense, like by literal points per drive allowed. They are the number 1 defense. But right now, between those 2 units, like, I pretty clearly trust Houston's more. I just think they're absolutely insane. So the Colts are more balanced. The Jags are atop the division. As much as I love Duval, and you know how much I love Duval, Logan, I still have to have the Colts above them. I just think the Jags are too inconsistent. But we're in this crazy spot where, like, all these teams are so close. Realistically, almost certainly one of them is going to miss out. And, like, Indy has been the team. They have been the front runner in this division ever since their strong start. They've got the toughest schedule in football left, though, Logan. Their remaining 5 games are Seattle, San Francisco, Jacksonville, and Houston twice. Like, those are all really, really tough games. So maybe that gets them. They don't have the lead in the division anymore. But thinking beyond just like who's going to make it, I think I would be most scared of seeing Houston right now. And they could still easily miss the playoffs because it's that kind of year. That's the state of the division right now. But as somebody who coming into the year picked Houston to miss the playoffs, that was one of my bold predictions. And I felt vindicated by that because the offense was just so bad. I always thought the defense was going to be elite. I was just so worried about the offense, but the defense has been even better than I expected. I thought it would be one of the best defenses in football. I think it probably is the best. It's so close between them and Denver. Like, Denver has all these ridiculous numbers where they're number 1 in third down defense. They're number 1 in red zone defense. I think they're number 1 in terms of yards per play, both through the ground and the air that they're allowing, and the best defense in terms of yards per play allowed that we've seen in years, right? They've got all these ridiculous numbers in their favor, but Houston has maybe the best edge duo in NFL history. Like, I'm going to go out there and say that. I know that's crazy, and there's some great pass rushing duos out there. You think that's crazy to say, Logan? I mean, I thought about this. You've got Mathis and Freeney. You've got Marshall and Eller, if we want to go back to the Purple People Eaters. That's the best defensive line in NFL history in totality. You've got DeMarcus Ware, Von Miller, and, like, I thought about some edge and interior defensive lineman combos like Deacon Jones, Merlin Olsen back in the day, Simeon Rice, Warren Sapp. There's a few of those. But if you look specifically at 2 defensive ends, like, it's probably the best I've ever watched in my life. Both Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter are top 7 in pressures. They're both top 6 in sacks. They've got double-digit sacks, both of them, in just 12 games. And, like, it's different. It just is different, the pressure that they are able to reliably generate off the edge without having to send extra rushers. What we have seen these last 2 weeks, where they held the Bills offense to 19 points and had them in hell, and then they held the Colts offense to 16 points and they had them in hell. Denver's defense is amazing, but performances of that caliber against offenses of that caliber, those are 2 of the top 3 offenses in the NFL in terms of points per drive. Houston's defense won them both of those games. Their offense did just enough, but their defense is holding those teams 12 points below their typical production. Like, it's just incredible how valuable that group really is. And I do think it starts with, maybe the best edge duo we've ever seen. Do you think that's crazy? Is there somebody who I forgot to mention in that conversation?
I mean, I think it's a hot take. It's an interesting conversation. I just mean in the history of football is kind of bold. I mean, I thought some of the names you threw out were good. I thought like Kevin Green and Greg Lloyd. I thought
Steelers.
I did think a lot of Steelers. I did think Reggie White and like Clyde Simmons from the Eagles. I don't know. It's bold. I would have gone. I mean, my pick would be Freeney and Mathis. I just can't go with anybody else over them. Like having seen them play, maybe like well, it's weird when you're going interior and outside. I was thinking maybe like Simeon Rice and
Warren Sapp
as well. Yeah, like but it's not ridiculous. It's not like crazy. Like I would think about it because Will Anderson is a monster and Hunter is too. Like they're both crazy. It's debatable. I would hear you out.
I understand that maybe it sounds crazy on the surface, but like when you say Mathis and Freeney, obviously in terms of the totality of what they did together, because those guys played together for a decade plus, like absolutely when you're talking about it on a career level, when you're talking about peak individual season dominance, I don't think that they ever had a season as great as what these two are on pace to do. Like we could have two guys with 15 plus sacks, two guys who are top 5 in pressures. That's the kind of pace that these guys are on right now. And I'm just absolutely blown away by it every week. Like I said, I underestimated just how utterly dominant this group really was. And it's not just about the pass rushing duo and the pass rush, like the secondary, Lassiter and Stingley, like that is so stupidly good. The coverage is ridiculous. And this is something that both Denver and Houston have. I mean, it starts with this combination of ridiculous pass rush, because I certainly don't want to undersell Nick Bonito, how great he's been, the totality of the pass rush that you have in Denver, and obviously an elite secondary, even if Riley Moss is consistently subjected to flagrant racism. I mean, on the broadcast, they just can't stop talking about targeting Riley Moss. And I understand that Pat Surtain is opposite him, so you should throw at whoever's on the other side. And I know that he got all the DPIs early in the year, but it's hard enough being a white corner in the big leagues, Logan. You don't need them circling and saying, throw at this honky every time, throw at this cracker. But anyways, Lassiter, Stingley, nuts. It's just incredible what we're seeing from Houston right now. So when I think about the path to upsetting anybody in the AFC, to knocking anybody off, like, Houston's defense, to me, makes elite teams more uncomfortable than the Colts offense does, because there is something of a game plan. There is something of a formula against the Colts offense. And again, normally I value the elite offense over the elite defense, but this is an exception where it just feels like Houston is knocking everybody off their game with their defense, and Indianapolis isn't doing the same with their offense right now to teams.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, like, if you think of teams that have won the Super Bowl with that formula, like, you might have to think a little bit ways back. But Eli Manning and both of those Giants teams, what were they powered by? Pass rush, being able to make the opposing team's quarterback, pop in a big spot. How did the Buccaneers do it with Tom Brady? They made Mahomes pop. The Eagles, how did they do it? Like, great teams, and obviously they had great offenses. These examples aren't as good, because I was going to talk about like the 2008 Steelers are a better comp, the 2015 Broncos.
Well, I think the 2011 Giants are a good comp too. But I mean, that was a defense carried group in the playoffs.
I just mean in the sense that you were powered by elite edge rushers and your ability to pressure the quarterback, and your offense can do just enough in every game. Like, it's not my favorite formula. There's a reason that the Giants weren't that great of a football team every other year outside of those 2 playoff runs, but we have seen it done, and the Texans, I certainly think, are talented enough to where that is a real possibility. And I'll say this, I like the Broncos defense more than Houston's. I like Houston more than I like Denver because of CJ Stroud.
That's interesting. I was about to ask that question. Yeah, those two teams are very, very close right now. And again, it's really, really hard to win it all with a very limited offense. And both these offenses are still outside the top 20 in points per drive. The only team that we've seen win it all in the last 15 years with offense lacking to that degree is the 2015 Broncos, one of the greatest defenses we've ever seen. Also, though, Like, we've talked about it, dude. I'm ready to have some specific, real conversations about just how great these defenses are. Because when I think about the last decade, I mean, if we go post LOB, which is the best defense of the last 15 years, if we go post no fly zone, like last year's Eagles, because of what they did in the playoff run, absolutely have to be at the top of these conversations. But then I feel like both of these groups are as good as any defense we've seen in the last decade. In fact, I know it's the last 2 years, but I don't think it's a recency bias thing to say those might be the three best defenses we've seen since the 2015 Broncos. Like, both Niners defenses, when they made the Super Bowl 2019, 2023, those were really, really great defenses. Those come to the top of mind.
Minnesota's defense last year.
That was a great group for sure.
I don't know. I don't want to overlook that team, dude. That defense was awesome.
They were. I mean, just psychotic blitzing. Shout out Brian Flores. But I do feel like the combination of crazy, crazy pass rush without having to bring extra bodies, with out of this world coverage in the secondaries. And I mean, both of these teams have been good run defenses.
Cleveland from a couple of years ago when they made the playoffs with 5 different QBs. I'd have them on that list too.
Yeah, that was a great defense. That was a really great defense for sure. But these are just two of like the most flawless, dominant, disruptive groups that we've seen in a long time. So it's been really, really fun to see. I went back and I looked up if we've seen pass rushing duos with 15 plus sacks in the same season. We have, but not since 1989 when Chris Dolman and Keith Millard did it. How about that?
I was going to say, I think Reggie and Clyde, I don't think ever hit 15 both one year, but I think they traded off to where they were like 14 and 19 or something like that. Like they were up there. It's a good shout though, man.
Whoa. Okay, this is insane. Pre-official sack era, which starts in 1982, I believe. Nah, Deacon's crazy. Deacon is crazy. But Mark Gastineau, good friend of the show. We love him. We advocate him in his war against Brett Favre. And Joe Klecko, they both hit 20 in 1981. That's unofficial, but that is absolutely nuts. So there's a couple more great duos to shout out. But I think that both Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson have like a great chance to clear that 15 mark. And that's something that we haven't seen again since 89. It's something that Mathis and Freeney never did. It's something that DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller never did. And they didn't really overlap at Ware's absolute peak, but that's still a great, great duo. But we're talking about some of these great defenses in recent memory, Logan. And last year's Eagles, rightfully, came up in that conversation. This year's Eagles have a big problem on the other side of the ball. And it cost them, if we turn things back to Black Friday and talk about some of the great games that we saw earlier in the week, they fall to the now 1 seed in the NFC, Chicago Bears, Logan. How worried are you about the Philadelphia Eagles right now?
I mean, I've been ready to slam the panic button on Philadelphia about all season long.
You've slammed it. You've gone past the pump fake. You've hit it.
I have. I don't know. I don't like Philadelphia. I haven't liked Philadelphia all season long, and the vibes and I know you've had like this embedded faith that not like to the fullest extent where you thought they were going to go win the Super Bowl or something.
I've had more faith than you in the offense figuring some things out.
Yeah, and I've just been utterly defeated, especially just because Saquon Barkley really hasn't been able to run the ball at all this season. And that's a major problem. Yeah, man, I'm out. I'm out on Philly. I'll just make it official. I will be as much shit as Philadelphia fans give us on social media for never picking them. Fine. I'm going to be done with you guys. I'm just over Philadelphia. I don't think their offensive coordinator is good enough for them to win the Super Bowl. I have seen enough games from the Eagles this season. I don't think the defense is as dominant as they were. I don't think the infrastructure is good. I still think they have the talent, but I think the offensive line has regressed a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm just done. I am done on the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. Could the Eagles win a playoff game? Sure. They've been showing me they can win ugly and win tight games all year long. The Eagles aren't winning the Super Bowl. And if they do, I'll just eat my words, man. I will just be wrong. I am so fed up. Carson, the last 2 times you and I have both picked the Eagles, they have lost.
Sorry.
I'm tired of them, man. So yeah, I'm done on Philly. I've been impressed with Chicago too. We'll give them some love here in a minute, but
Yeah.
I'm out on Philly, man.
The Davis Mills Texans offense looked better than the Philadelphia Eagles with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley have looked. Obviously, it's huge that C.J. is back now for Houston, but that's not good. And when we talk about, yeah, it's amazing what the Houston and the Denver defenses are and giving them so much credit, but being worried about the offense, statistically, the Eagles offense is every bit as bad. In fact, arguably the worst out of the group on the year. I mean, they're all in that exact same range. I talked about where I think Denver is 25th in yards per drive and 22nd in points per drive. Well, Philly is 26th in yards per drive and 23rd in points per drive. The only difference has been the talent on paper, the fact that they have superstars and the fact that we saw them figure it out with a similar group at the end of last year. Even though there were a lot of ugly moments and a lot of lulls last year, it pulled together when it mattered most. I'm just pretty close to where you're at with this team. Like, I will not decisively declare they cannot do it, but the likelihood, and I haven't had them in my top 3 or anything for like a really long time because I've been worried about this offense, but I haven't gone as far as you. Right now, my panic about the Philly offense is at a 10. Like, they're 28th in success rate, dude. They're a bottom 5 offense when it just comes to reliably generating positive plays. They are so dependent on this formula of elite defensive game and not turning the ball over whatsoever offensively. If they have multiple turnovers in a game, they lose. They're 0-3 this season when that happens. And you can say, yeah, okay, well, any team's chances are obviously going to get a lot worse if they lose the turnover battle. But for it to be this dramatic an issue of like the only strength of their offense is not giving the ball away, and if they struggle to do that, they're going to lose the football game. It's egregious. I thought Hurts had some bad misses in this game. It is about everything. I almost feel like Hurts doesn't get criticized enough, though. And like, maybe I'm not the guy to be saying that because I have been a critic of Hurts and I've said he's not a top 10 quarterback and all these different things. And I have issues with him as a processor. I think he can really struggle there. I just don't think he is a very good passing quarterback. And that's why Philly's passing attack, in part at least, is so often so anemic. And I think everybody has looked at Kevin Patullo, who I do think sucks. I think his play calling sucks. But I think there's also been a lot of like protecting Hurts as if he is not clearly part of the problem here. And I do think that he is. I just think he's not a good processor. I do think that he misses opportunities to get the ball to AJ and Devontae. And the only good thing about this offense that you could say is that they have AJ and Devontae, and yet they are consistently so underutilized and don't get the football. So when the line has regressed and Saquon has regressed and the play calling sucks and Hurts is, at the very least, we can all agree, not an elevator, right? That is very, very clear if you look at the course of this season and their consistent, pervasive offensive issues. Like, I just got to drop them, man. They're 14th in point differential right now. Like, in a lot of ways, they profile as a very average football team, and they've just played too much mediocre football for me to have them in that top 5, hovering around it, when, yes, they won the Super Bowl last year, but things change fast in the NFL. And there's been enough regression in some of these areas, even though I thought what they did defensively against Green Bay and Detroit was incredible. And that's what got me a little bit higher on this team again. What we've seen from them offensively over the course of the year, even in those wins, it's just too concerning and too large a sample size for me to expect things to change at this point.
Well said. Yeah, I just they haven't shown me that anything else. Who knows, man? Maybe they'll eke out a couple of wins and down the stretch. You're like, you know what? You know where I am with Philadelphia, and I cannot believe I'm freaking saying this. I like the Dallas fucking Cowboys more than I like the Eagles, and I frankly am disgusted that I am at that point in the season. I want to throw up.
Well,
I said something nice about the Cowboys. I don't feel like myself right now.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's a crazy take at all. I think it's pretty damn close to me in terms of who I would be more scared of heading into a playoff game.
The Cowboys have a guy who can get their really good receivers the football.
They've got a great quarterback. They've got a great offense, and they've got an improved defense that is respectable in recent weeks since they got Quinnen Williams and since they've gotten healthier on that side of the ball. I think that makes sense. So this is going to be a huge stretch down the year for Philly to show us anything offensively, but like, it's been the same questions. It's been the same problems since week 1. And the response is just so deeply unconvincing. And eventually this shit does come back to bite you. Like, specifically these offensive limitations, dude. I know Denver, not to beat the drum and beat a dead horse about them, but like, eventually when you are every week in a nail biter against the Jets and the Giants and the Commanders, it's going to get you. And that's where Philly is at now. And they've dropped their last 2 games. 2 good football teams, but 2 ugly losses nonetheless. But for Chicago, Logan, this is a great win. This is a huge win. This is a team that has been as hot as anybody. How convinced are you by this performance?
The Bears are good. Bears are good. I want to say that and get that out. I don't think they're as good as their record would indicate. I don't think the Bears are as good as a 9-3 team would like suggest, the number 1 seed in the conference. But I do have to give them some respect. They've won 5 straight games, and the things that I really do buy in on are Ben Johnson and his brilliance. I think the guy is just that. I think he's brilliant. I think he knows his shit. I think he is. And I felt that way about this whole year with him and Caleb, that it was going to be there were going to be some growing pains, but it was going to be an overall success, and they were going to create a really good partnership for the future. But more importantly, I just think the guy knows offense as a whole. The way they've been able to run the ball over these last 5 games is absurd. They are averaging 195 rushing yards per game over the last 5. That's number 1 in the NFL, and that's 50 more rushing yards per game than second place. Like, they are running the ball at an incredible rate right now. That's because of both Monangai and Swift. I think they just found a diamond in the rough in Monangai. I think he is an absolute stud in this game. 281 rushing yards on 6 yards per carry. They outgained the Eagles in terms of rushing first down, 17-2, and they had the ball 40 minutes to 20 possessions in terms of time of possession. They forced 10 turnovers over the last 5 games.
Yeah.
Like, I buy into Ben Johnson. I buy into a lot of the improvements they made over the offseason, the running game. When I look at them, because of course then it comes into the question, okay, well, they're the number 1 seed. They're number 1 in the NFC North. How legit are they? I just would probably pick against them in a playoff game right now. I don't think they are one of these upper echelon contenders. I would still have them below Green Bay in their own division. With Detroit, I don't really know. I'm trying to figure out what the hell to make of Detroit right now. I would still probably prefer them. I still don't think the Bears are a legitimate contender. I think they could win a playoff game, but I wouldn't pick it. I think some of their numbers are a little bit inflated due to a little bit of an easier schedule. But when I say that, it's like I can't be too critical. They've been winning games, and their offense isn't one-dimensional. And that's what I'm most excited about, is this offense isn't all on the shoulders of Caleb Williams. And that's something that excites me about the Chicago team, how dynamic they are, the talent they have on this offense. And I just think right now, like, this is how do I say this? This is the most important stretch of football that you should judge the Bears off of. It might not be against the best talent, but because they've been with Ben Johnson, like, everybody knows their role and knows this offense at this point in the season. And so this is the most meaningful football that you can take away. There's no more growing pains. Guys aren't figuring stuff out. What I'm saying is I think this is more what the Bears actually are. On the fringe, maybe, of my top 10. The Bears are close, man. If Caleb was a little bit more consistent, I think I could put him there. Or if the defense was a little bit more consistent, like, I really like the running game. I really like Ben Johnson. I'm just not fully bought in on Caleb or the defense yet.
Yeah, I think that we're pretty similar in terms of our takes on the Bears. I want to commend what has turned this season around, and I think that you touched on it. It's really all about the run game to me. This is obviously a quarterback league, and when you have a talent like Caleb, who was so hyped up, so highly regarded, number 1 overall pick, when things turn around at the team level, the inclination is to make it all about his turnaround. And I do think that Caleb has been better this year. But the big difference for this offense is what they have in the run game, even compared to not just last year, but early this season when they came out the gates slower, right there, 2-2 start before the bye. They were averaging 102 yards per game on the ground, 3.8 yards per carry. That was an issue in their loss to Minnesota, right? They couldn't run the football. It took them a little bit of time to really hit the ground running there, to get things smoothed out in terms of the operations. But it's just been phenomenal. These last 8 games, when they've been 7-1, when they've been ripping off all of these victories, 180 yards per game on the ground, 5.4 yards per carry. Overall this year, they are now number 1 in rushing yards. They're top 6 in rushing touchdowns and yards per attempt. And they absolutely destroyed Philly on the ground. So that's really the story of this team to me. When you look at the success of the Chicago Bears, more than anything else, it is about what they have built in terms of a ground game. That is a Ben Johnson thing. That is an offensive line thing. That is a team building story. And it goes so far beyond taking a burden off of Caleb's plate, right? Not being one-dimensional in terms of a passing attack. He is now responsible for the secondary aspect of this offense because everything starts with the run game, and that's where they are going to beat you and bruise you and win most of their football games offensively. That's been really impressive. Also, you mentioned, them being a huge takeaway defense in recent weeks. They are leading the league in takeaways as well. And in this game, I just love them attacking the ball on the tush push. Just getting in there and ripping it out. I think that's something that is easier said than done, but more defenses need to try to make a priority because it's so damn hard to keep them from getting the yard. Your best bet probably is to try to force that ball out. But that's been a strength of this team. It does concern me to some extent when you are not a good defense at all when it comes to keeping teams from moving the football, and you do rely on a lot of those takeaways. It can often be a bit unsustainable, and so that's where I'm still not fully bought in on Chicago. Like you said, they're good. Are they 1 seed good? No. Would I be surprised if they missed the playoffs at this point, even as they're 9-3? No. This NFC playoff picture is brutally tough. I do not think they're a lock. This was their first win against a team currently in the playoffs, and it's a really, really good win. But the tests are just getting started. They've got 2 games against the Packers coming up. They've got the Lions. They've got the Niners. We're going to learn a lot about this team as they face this incredibly difficult stretch of the schedule. I still have concerns about the defense, specifically against the run. And the passing game is up and down. And like you said, Caleb, although he's improved, still is not super consistent, especially when it comes to the accuracy. So I'm very happy for Bears fans. I don't want to be a downer here. This is the best season they've had in a long time. Although let's not forget about the Mitch Trubisky
NFC
magic.
Oh, that's fair.
I was going to say about the 12-win Bears with Matt Nagy and Mitch Trubisky.
I don't know. Jay Cutler had them boys in the NFC title game. A lot of Bears fans feel if he was healthy for that game, they win. They go to the Super Bowl too. But I just wanted to add to the last impressive thing about Chicago to me during this stretch is the fact that they've had some pretty big injuries on defense to some guys, and they've been able to resist that. So I'm not. This was not a good defense even when those guys were healthy. So I'm not saying you should be super optimistic that when they return that they're magically going to be really good. But 2 starting linebackers, Edwards and Edmonds have been out. They've been missing some other guys on that side. So to rip off this winning streak and to not miss a beat when you're missing, this many starters defensively, though, I do think that's impressive too. So shout out Chicago, man. I thought that this was going to be, I didn't expect it to happen this year. I thought Chicago's leap year was going to, this would be a 7-win encouraging year. Caleb looked a little better. And I think that speaks to the man that Ben Johnson is, man. I think that Ben is I'm jealous, man.
Oh my God.
I'm jealous of the Chicago Bears. I don't want to talk about
swooning.
I don't want to talk about the Steelers, man. I'm so depressed.
Well, we'll hold that off for another second then. There are better football games to talk about. But Ben Johnson is the man. He is surging in this Coach of the Year conversation. But you mentioned the defense, and there have been some injuries. But this has been an issue from the start of the year. They are bottom 5 in terms of net yards per pass allowed and yards per rush allowed. That is concerning again if some of the takeaway stuff comes back to earth, which it will to some extent. And if you just get back to the most basic metric that there is, not counting literal wins and losses, I just talked about this with Philly. Chicago's 16th in point differential. Like, what does that indicate? A lot of close wins that maybe are not the most convincing, the most dependable. When you talk about escaping against the Commanders, the Raiders earlier in the year, the Bengals, the Giants, the Vikings, the Seahawks, like all these very, very close games, a lot of them against not good teams. This game was different from that. And that's why it's clearly the win of the year for Chicago. And also, they're clearly a better team than they were in the first couple weeks when they had that ugly loss to the Vikings and they got their asses handed to them by the Lions. So, some of that stuff is maybe skewing the point differential in a negative direction, but even a lot of their wins haven't been the most convincing. This was a really, really good one. I'm happy for Chicago, but yeah, just because they're sitting in that 1 seed spot right now does not mean that I am convinced that they are a major threat in the NFC. However, Logan, you mentioned a looming, emerging threat in the NFC, a Liopleurodon in the depths of the prehistoric waters, if you will, waiting to snack on some prey. The Dallas Cowboys, led by the one and only Dakota Prescott. They take down the Kansas City Chiefs. I predicted this when we did our game picks. You said, is this guy joking? You called me some very, very nasty names, things I won't be repeating on here. You asked me what I was wearing, which I thought was a confusing change in tone. But you were wrong, because Dak got it done and Dallas got it done. And now you're saying you're moved. Just how impressed are you by what you saw from Dallas in this game and what you've seen from them as of late?
I was just worried about you, man. I was like, I thought you had missed text, man. Like,
no, I said it. I meant it. I said it with my chest. And at the time, I was wearing my assless chaps, to answer your second question.
You did stand on business, though. I mean, you immediately texted me back. Yeah. And then you sent me like a little devil emoji after the game, too. You were like, yeah, bro, I told you. I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
It's really simple. Like, when we're talking about these different formulas and how to win football games, the Cowboys, when Dak brings it, can put up points on anybody. And Dak
he brings it a lot, doesn't he?
He does. He's got that. It's not Goff or Darnold level, but like he'll give you a dud like one in every 6 to 8 games. One in every 6 to 8 games, he'll give you a dud. But and who doesn't, right?
Right.
Like Dak brings it 90% of games, and then he's got, I think, the best receiving duo in football, one of the best maybe ever. Like Pickens and CD are so great. And the big thing to me, because I knew this about CD, I knew this about Pickens, I knew this about Dak, the big difference is the defensive additions. I didn't think they were going to make this big of a difference immediately. And Quinnen Williams is still a great player, transformative, great up front. And like when I look at them against a team like Philadelphia just can struggle offensively against anyone. Dallas can put up points in a heartbeat against anyone. It is really as simple as that. And so when I look at their defenses, I look at the difference as negligible when the difference in offenses is so large. And I just like that formula more. I like that. I like betting on the team that can just go balls to the walls and ignite in a second. Like, I like that formula by and large more. And damn, man, I have to cheer for the Dallas Cowboys, but
well, nobody's making you.
I'm not.
You are seeing the light.
I am.
This is something that happens for a lot of men in their 20s. They have a religious awakening, a spiritual experience that leads them to the truth and the light. And that is what you are having now as you bask in the glory of Dak Prescott. And I am here with you for this journey. And I would love to be your shaman and your shepherd.
I'm actually a George Pickens-aholic. So,
well, he is part of this journey. He is a beautiful, wonderful part of it. And yeah, they're so insane, this receiving duo. Like, the crazy part is some of the receiving duos around the league are so ridiculous. Like Puka and Devontae are also so stupid good. Healthy Jamar and T are so stupid good. It's just such a stacked position. But this is one of the most potent passing attacks in football. I mean, it's just ridiculous, dude. GP is at this place where it just feels like he can do anything. I think that he had 75 yards just off of slants in this game I saw, which was the most that anybody's had this season. Like, he can win however he wants. He is such a physical freak. He has such strong hands. He is such an impressive vertical athlete. He can get up and make these contested catches. He's ridiculous after the catch, and he is separating consistently. Like, he's the man. He's been so good. But this was a huge CD game as well, and it's just those three, man. And by the way, Logan, you're looking at a guy, hi, nice to see you, who predicted that Dak Prescott was going to lead the league in passing this year. Dak Prescott is currently on pace to lead the league in passing, but they are just so ridiculously good. And of course, we can't underrate what they have had in the run game this year. They are obviously a pass-first attack, and they have the ability to throw their way back into any game, but also the fact that the run game has been top 10 in terms of efficiency. I mean, compared to how things were looking last year, like when they really could not run the football, they've been better in the trenches. It's just probably a top 3 offense in football. Like, that's the level that they've been playing at this year, and that's why they win this football game, and that's why they are such a big threat. Now, I still think the gap defensively between them and, say, the Eagles is big. Like, I need to see more from this Dallas defense. I was encouraged by what we saw from them in the Raiders and Eagles games, but also those are going up against two pretty shitty offenses, especially the Raiders, who have the literal worst offensive line maybe I've ever seen. But the run defense was certainly improved with Quinnen in the fold. I thought the defense did just enough against Kansas City. I don't know that I would say I was impressed by them. I do still think a lot of people are going to take the angle here that, oh, hold on, this justifies everything that Jerry did, because look at it. He traded Micah, but now they're right back in the thick of things. What we always have to remember here is that they now traded Micah to then trade back almost all that same capital to get Quinnen Williams, where they swapped Micah for Quinnen Williams, and they moved from a second-round pick to a first-round pick. That is the entirety of what they gained. They moved up 1 round. So that's stupid. That doesn't mean that Quinnen Williams isn't a very good football player who makes a difference. He is. But again, they wouldn't have had to be salvaging themselves from this hellish place as one of the worst defenses in NFL history, which they were before this recent stretch. And they're still dead last overall in the year in points allowed per drive. That's where I need to see more from this defense. But clearly the last 3 weeks, they have turned a corner. They've made meaningful improvements, and the defense is playing well enough for me to say, yes, this is a scary team. If I look around the NFC, you've got the Niners right now, right? 9-4 in a playoff spot. Who would I be more afraid to face? I'd rather see San Francisco, and obviously injuries are a huge part of that, but that is just a team that does not have the same superstar factor, whose offense isn't nearly as potent as this Dallas group, quarterback who I don't trust nearly as much. So that's the spot that Dallas is in right now. They're a really good football team. The question is just, when you started 3-5-1 because your defense was so atrocious in this loaded NFC, where you're chasing teams that are 9-4 in the 7 seed, can you make up that difference? And the answer is probably not, but maybe. Dallas is good enough to certainly at least figure into those conversations. And they're in a spot where, like, yeah, if you get them at home against a team like Kansas City, I was saying this when we did our last contender rankings, the gap to me between 2 and 13 is just not that big. So, like, it's kind of any given Sunday. And the Chiefs, who we have both defended, who I have certainly said are better than their record, like, even though I believe that to be true, they're not exempt from that group. And so they're totally, totally vulnerable to lose a game like this. And they did. And now, Logan, they're 6-6. So how worried are you about Kansas City after this game?
I mean, I think if I got to be out on the Eagles, like, I got to be out on the Chiefs too. I think I got to keep the same energy about them as well, right? Like,
well, is it the same situation?
I mean,
because we talk about being really worried about the offense with Philly, right? That is obviously not the concern with KC.
I don't know. I worry about the offense a fair amount. Like, what else do they have going on for them other than just having the Patrick Mahomes factor? And I have let that blind me, I think, to the reality of this Chiefs team. Like, I still believe in Patrick Mahomes. I think he's the greatest quarterback I've ever seen. There's nothing that I've seen this season that has made me change my mind on that. I know what he is. Mm-hmm. I just don't think this team's that good around him. And now, like, Josh Simmons is going to be out the rest of the year. They can't run the freaking football. I need to see
language,
it
dude.
with Kansas City. Like, I am going to put them, maybe they'll be in like my 10 spot if they're going to make my contender rankings. Like, there's a very high probability that this team is just going to outright miss the playoffs. And I think outside of Patrick Mahomes, they are just thoroughly mediocre. Like, they are the Kansas City Mahomes, man. It's not the Kansas City Chiefs. It's the Kansas City Patricks, bro. Like, I really do not like this team outside of Mahomes. And I think I have just let this, and they've earned it. Like, I think Mahomes has earned me going, oh, they got Mahomes, they're going to be fine. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think this team just isn't that good around Patrick.
Wow. It's so funny. People are probably going to think that I'm insane. I still feel like this year's Chiefs are better than last year's Chiefs. I understand they're 6-6 and they were 15-1 before they sat everybody last year and they went to the Super Bowl last year. Like, they are still a better offense and defense statistically. Their point differential is much better. And when you talk about what else is really good about this offense, well, they're second in points per drive. Mahomes clearly has been better than he was last regular season and 2 years ago. And I think the receivers are legitimately like really good. Like,
don't get me
Rashee
wrong.
Rice is a fucking playmaker. And the depth that they have is clearly better. The offensive line is clearly better. It's a pretty good offensive line. Like,
too much
I agree that the run game is lackluster, but I think the passing attack is flat out all around elite in a way that it hasn't been.
You don't think there's too much on his plate? Like, I just think this is the year where like it breaks his back. Like, I just think he is Atlas holding the whole world up, and I don't think he can. I don't think he can do it with this team.
Well, what I'm saying is I think he has a lot more support offensively than he has had the last 2 years, where last year that offensive line was more of a question, and the receiving weapons the last 2 years, again,
I'm still
weren't
worried
as
about this
good.
offensive line.
Really? I think they do a good job of protecting him, man.
I just mean in general. Like,
Well,
the
what are you
pass
worried
game,
about?
the pass game, and I am worried about them being too one-dimensional. I think they are too. I just think there's. I think if Mahomes doesn't play perfect football, you lose. And I thought he played pretty damn good football in this one and lost. Like there's just no margin for Mahomes, and that's too hard for any quarterback to overcome.
What's hard for me is I don't look at any one of these losses and think, ooh, that was catastrophic. Like, very rarely this year have I looked at a Chiefs game and come away from it thinking, ooh, the Chiefs didn't look that good, or like the Chiefs aren't a legitimately good football team. Like, they keep losing close ass games to really good teams. That's the reality. The difference between last year's Chiefs and this year's Chiefs is that they went 11-0 in one-score games last year, the best ever, and they're 1-6 in one-score games this year. And execution is a part of that. I think it has a lot more to do with luck, though, than it does with the caliber of the football team, because, again, in some of these key markers, I like them more this year. So I didn't think the offense was the problem against Dallas. Like, they put up 28 points. I thought that Mahomes was really good. Dallas got the couple of stops that they needed. The defense for Kansas City struggled, but they also struggled against a top 3, top 5 offense, whatever you want to call them. Like, I understand they are consistently winding up on the wrong end of some of these like 50-50 games. If it's against the Broncos, if it's against the Bills, if it was against the Jags earlier in the year, like every one of their losses, they have been totally in it down to the wire, and a good team gets the better of them. I still don't think, though, and I'm a Bills fan saying this, Logan, like the Chiefs haven't had that performance that makes me cringe like the Bills have had a couple times this year, or like we had this conversation when we did our contender rankings last week. Like, the Chiefs to me have done so much more than impresses me. They have played so much more good football than a team like the Ravens. Like, the drawback with the Kansas City Chiefs right now is the record. It's the fact that they're 6-6. That's the challenging situation they're in. I still think they're about as good as any team in the AFC for sure. And if they get to the big dance, they are going to be one of the biggest favorites and biggest threats to go deep. Now, though, they're in a spot where like they're probably going to miss the playoffs because they're 500. They're 2 games out of the 7th seed. Not just that, Jacksonville, Buffalo, the Chargers, all teams that are very likely going to be in those wildcard spots, have the tiebreaker over you, meaning those teams are effectively 3 games ahead of them, right? You have to have a better record than them to make it, which is seeming highly unlikely. And their remaining games, they've got a couple layups, but Houston, the Chargers, the Broncos, all of those are at home, but like you have zero margin, absolutely zero margin. And it goes beyond that because in no way do you control your own destiny. You need other teams to drop games. You need to win some of these close ones that you haven't been winning. And so they're in this very precarious situation. And we're probably, because of that, going to go and look back at the end of the year and say, oh my God, the Kansas City Chiefs, who had been in 7 straight AFC title games, just had by far their worst season in ages. And I just don't know that I actually feel that way about the product that has been put out there on the football field. And maybe that doesn't matter because what matters is, are you going deep in the playoffs? Are you making it? But I guess in terms of like a team building sense, I don't think this team is broken. I don't think they suck around Patrick Mahomes. I don't think they need to start things over from ground zero and tear everything down. Like, are some changes needed? Yes. But I believe this offense is easily the most potent they've had since 2022. I think the defense overall has been good enough, like better than last year's a little bit.
Ooh, that I disagree with. I don't think the
Really?
defense has been better. Yeah, I'm just underwhelmed by the defense.
I don't think last year's defense was that good, is the thing.
I just don't think this defense is that good. I think the defense has regressed, and I think there's just still this incredible burden on Mahomes' shoulders to produce every single week. Like, and I don't even disagree with you. Like, I do think the playmakers are better. I think the receivers are more dynamic than last year's group, but like, it's all on Mahomes' shoulder every single week, every drop back, every snap. Like, it's just.
But not in the way offensively that it was the last 2 years. Like, Rasheed is insane after the catch, right? What he did in the second half against the Colts was nuts. Nobody on last year's team, I mean, Rasheed obviously just being in and out of the lineup so much, was doing that at that level.
I just mean
the speed that they have on this
I'm not
team.
even, Carson, I'm not saying about the receivers. Like, I'm literally just saying about the fact that, like, Mahomes has to spoon feed guys. They can't run the ball. They are incapable of running the football effectively.
But don't you think all of this was true last year and they won 15 games? Like, you see what I'm saying about just how much of this is luck?
Some of it, but like, I do think the defense is just worse than last year.
Well, the defense last year was 24th in yards allowed per drive, 13th in points allowed per drive. This year, they are better in both those. They're 9th in points allowed per drive. Chris Jones has not been as good. I agree with you, but I don't think the defense has fallen off some cliff. They did last year from 2023 when they were an actually elite defense, and they still made the Super Bowl last year because they were a lot luckier than they are this year. And they executed better in close games too, for sure.
I guess we're just going to have to disagree.
Okay, we will disagree. Is all hope lost for the Chiefs? Are they cooked? Are they done? Are the playoffs nothing but a distant
you have
fantasy?
Patrick Mahomes. There's never you never throw in the full towel when you have Patrick Mahomes. If any of you Chiefs fans are doing that, turn in your fan membership. Like, no, the sky is not falling. You're gonna be okay. The Chiefs are gonna be fine. There's still a chance they make the playoffs. One game scenario, I still may take Mahomes in the playoffs. Like, it's not like the sky is falling, but I think they're just worse than last year. That's not really a debate.
I really
for me.
don't.
They have not executed in big spots.
I don't disagree with you there, but I think they have been a more consistently good football team, actually. I think that they have beat up on shitty teams in a way they didn't last year, and they've been in every single game. They've also had a really tough schedule. They've had a tougher schedule than last year, for sure. So I think the Chiefs are really good. Again, maybe that doesn't matter because they're in this spot where they've lost every one-score game, and it's like the biggest reversal of luck and fortune ever from last year in that way. But big picture, I think maybe this is it for Kelsey, and they'll have to figure that whole situation. They absolutely do need more out of Chris Jones, who's been such a dependable superstar. I haven't loved what they've gotten out of Reed and Spags. I think Mahomes has been really good. Like, I think, again, he's clearly having his best regular season out of the last 3 years. We'll see what happens. But I do view them as being absolutely as good as pretty much anybody out there. But again, flawed enough, not some dominant football team where they can lose. I also just think, like, the same things could be said of last year, and things just broke a different way in a very small sample size sport. Like, it's crazy to have a better point differential at 6-6 than you did at 15-1. And I think that does tell the story of the Chiefs last 2 seasons in a lot of ways. How many flaws ultimately got covered up by wins last year, and how much their demise this year is being exaggerated by some bad breaks in some really close games. That's where I'm at with them, but they're in a really hard spot right now. So it's not over. But do you think it is more likely than not that they miss the playoffs at this point? Because I do. I think just logically, like, it's a really long path back now.
Yeah, I would guess they missed the playoffs.
We'll agree there. Let's talk about another team that we would have seen as one of the big powers, one of the big threats coming into the year that we both still had pretty high in our contender rankings last time we talked about this, and yet they are currently also on the outside looking in the NFC playoff picture. The Lions dropped their Thanksgiving game to the Green Bay Packers. I'll start with this. Who do you think this one said more about?
That is a good question. I think it said more about Green Bay. Toyotathon has begun. Jordan Love is just going to be unstoppable. I shouldn't have picked against Jordan Love during Toyotathon. I mentioned that during the show, and I feel like a fool in this game. 234 yards, 4 touchdowns, 124.2 passer rating in Jordan Love's career during Toyotathon. 19 games. Carson, I want you to predict their record
I would love to.
And how many TDs and picks he has thrown in those 19 games.
Okay, this is wonderful. I'm going to say they are 17-2. Is that too ambitious?
A little lower. I'll give
15
you that.
15-4.
Very closer. 14-5.
Oh, I thought they were going to be better than that. I'm going to say that J Love has 36 touchdowns to 4 interceptions during Toyotathon.
Very close, actually. 34 touchdowns, 2 picks.
Holy.
He's unstoppable. I will say, in general, this is a component of what I think it said more about the Packers. I think Jordan Love is just top 10, and as we get further and further removed from some of these uglier games from Green Bay's schedule, I don't think Green Bay's struggles have been as much on Love individually as much as the offense as a whole, and I think he can sometimes wear more of the blame than he deserves. I like the wide receiver room in totality a lot more with the return of Christian Watson. I know you brought that up last time we were talking about the Packers, but that is a real difference maker. You know, they lost Tucker Kraft earlier in the year. I think he's this team's best receiver, but Watson coming back does make a big difference to me and just helps take some of this burden off of other guys to really win one-on-one and create, and just opens up opportunities for them to have, easier coverages on their side of the field. Like, I really like Watson, Dobbs, and Wicks, and then, Musgrave isn't too bad, but I think their ceiling ultimately is going to be determined by how effectively they can run the ball, but I really do like this receiving group a lot more now that Christian Watson is back healthy. And then I think you just see how Micah Parsons can just absolutely wreck a game. Like, that is another one of my big reasons why I bet on Green Bay being great, and he's a monster. You bet on teams with game-changing players like that. And I'm not completely out on Detroit, but I am slowly just kind of souring on them slowly more and more. I'll get to that in a little bit. Detroit is either going to drop or be on the fringes. I've got some big things to do with some of the teams I had some faith in my contender rankings. I need to make some adjustments over the next 2 weeks, but Detroit's going to drop. I don't know if I'm going to drop them out of my top 10. They're still very, very talented, but I don't know, man. Detroit's kind of dropping out of that like Super Bowl bubble to me. And what I mean by that is not real contenders, like where I'm talking about where the Chiefs and the Eagles belong. I'm really wondering if the Lions are kind of down there with them. And I think
that's interesting.
I think they are.
The Lions have some similarities in the Chiefs camp of like all their losses pretty much coming to good teams, except for the Vikings game, but to the Packers twice, to the Chiefs, to the Eagles, ironically, all in that happy family that you're maybe talking about. I do think their losses, at least in a couple instances, have been uglier, though. And so in that way, they can be a little bit more Eagles-esque when it comes to the lows, but they still don't have anything that concerns me nearly as much as like Philly's offense. I think this said a lot more about Green Bay. I'm back in on the Packers, Logan. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid again. I'm high as hell, and I'm loving it. And I wish that I had never left, but you need the lows to appreciate the highs. And that's where we're at with Green Bay. Like, I was already climbing back up. I had them 6th in our last edition of my contender rankings. They're going to move up higher. I really do like their formula. Maybe as much as anybody outside of the Rams, who are going to stay in that number 1 spot. But the offense is inconsistent. They have really hit their stride again in these last few weeks, though. And when they do, when they're running the ball well, which they've been doing better as of late, and when Jordan Love is balling and they're hitting explosives in the passing game, like they just feel dominant because the defense is so good. And Micah Parsons is just out of this world. Like, if it weren't for the existence of one Myles Garrett, Micah would be your defensive player of the year front runner and like a strong defensive player of the year. He is unbelievable. He's got 6 sacks in the last 3 weeks. He comfortably leads the NFL in pressures. The most impressive stat, maybe, and the most telling stat of the season, though, he's got 7 sacks in the fourth quarter. That is the most in the NFL. Like, he is a closer. We have seen that multiple times this year. It absolutely happened in this game. It happened if you think back to the Cardinals game. Like, when you need somebody third down, get you off the field, strike, blow up a play, win in a second and a half and disrupt the quarterback, finish that sack. Like, he's the guy to do that. He's as good of a guy to do that as anybody on the planet. And that just does so much for a defense that was already really good last year because of scheme, because of what they excelled at. But when you have one edge rusher who can break the game wide open, especially in a huge moment, it just takes everything up another level. So, like, they're so good all around. Like, I feel like I'm talking myself into the version of the Packers that I bought into, that I picked to go to the Super Bowl before the year. Now, not to that same extent of total optimism, because we have seen the lows with this offense, and there's no denying that. And they haven't run the ball as well as they did last year. And Jaden Reed is going to come back at some point, but Tucker Kraft is not, and he was the best weapon in this receiving room. So, like, you understand there's going to be some ups and downs there, and things are probably going to look really, really good in Toyotathon, and then maybe there is an ugly moment. But I agree with you on Love getting too much blame when things were going wrong, when the offensive line was struggling, the run game was struggling. I didn't really like the play calling. I thought it was too conservative, and the receiving core was injured. I do like what we're seeing from the receivers more right now. Like, I think Christian Watson being on the field for an extended stretch has been a legitimate impact guy. What he opens up as a deep threat, I mean, just what he brings to the table athletically, it's made a difference. So I do think they're a little better than Detroit because of what they have defensively and how a guy like Micah changes games and just their ability to generate stops on that side of the ball. And like, they're 2-0 in the head-to-head against Detroit for a reason. They have twice been able to keep that Detroit offense in check, which we've seen teams do a couple more times this year than last year or the year before that. But the Detroit offense is still really good. They lose Amon-Ra this game, obviously, but like, the Detroit offense is still 6th in points per drive. You know, they put up 29 points per game. Detroit struggling like they have against Green Bay, to me, says a lot more about what the Packers can do than it does about Detroit's offense having some major red flags that are going to concern me. So I'm just impressed by Green Bay more so, and I'm pleased. I picked them to win this game. I was feeling the vibes, and they got the job done. They look really good again.
I don't know. I am worried about the Lions. Like, I know that this is their kryptonite, but the fact that we have seen a few teams really able to slow down the rushing attack, they've not been able to establish the run in the same way offensively. And then when you zero in on Goff, and I thought Goff played a really good game, but that's the way to get them off their beat when you can limit the rushing attack a little bit. The defense hasn't been able to come up with big stops against Green Bay, but the biggest thing to me is the offensive line's regression. And it's not like they have regressed from this point of they're really great to like they're a bad offensive line now. Like, they have regressed from the point of best offensive line in the game to like a top 10 unit. And that kind of regression is enough to where this team doesn't have that elite superpower that made them a Super Bowl front runner to me last year. And more importantly, I think the biggest thing that we have seen from Detroit is their loss of the 2 coordinators and how big of a loss that can be. And I just think that that's enough for me to look at this team and go, they can't win the Super Bowl this year. We're like, I don't know, Carson, we're getting down to the nitty gritty where like, I I need to cut off the fakes, man. I
Yeah.
need to let the snakes go. And I have gotten bitten by all the, and who knows, man? Maybe I'll be wrong and I'll just overlook them and they'll go win the Super Bowl and I can be wrong. But I have been burnt enough by these teams where I am ready to jump ship, and the Lions are now another one where, I don't know, Carson. There have been 4 really big games for Detroit this season, and I have picked them in every single one of them, and they have lost all of them. And it's like there are only so many times you can lose the big game until I look and I go, all right, well, it's just you guys. You guys just can't get it done. And so, like, I'm not even saying that the Lions are drastically a different team from last year, but what I am saying is all of these little regressions in all these different areas, I think have added up to where this team has gone from Super Bowl front runner to they could win a playoff game.
Yeah, they're not as good as last year. I don't know that that was even the expectation. I mean, for me, I expected a little regression.
I was really
Yeah.
optimistic about Detroit as being that team that was going to seize the kind of vacancy in the conference.
My thing is still, as you're kind of going through and you're crossing teams off this week, which clearly is the theme, you're Logan Camden, you're the Grim Reaper going door to door and cutting heads off. Every year, if you say that 31 teams are not going to win the Super Bowl, you're going to be right? Or if you say all 32 can't win the Super Bowl, literally, you'd be right about 31 of them. Like this year, I just don't feel comfortable saying that when we've seen so many flaws, we've seen so many ugly losses, and like it would have seemed justified to say the exact same thing about the Packers 3 weeks ago. And now all of a sudden they're rounding into this elite form. Like when you have the talent, when I've seen the highs, I just can't write you off. And Detroit is too good for me to write them off.
I can write a team with Jared Goff at quarterback off, and I can feel okay about it.
But then how many teams are you going to be left with, man? How many teams can win the Super Bowl in the Logan Camden book?
Right
this
now,
is a year where I feel like that list has to be bigger because everybody's so flawed. So the bar is lower.
I mean, right now the list would be short. I am down to the Packers are on there, the Rams are on there, the Seahawks are on there, and then I like no teams in the AFC. I hate all the AFC teams. Every one of them.
So no AFC teams can win the Super Bowl? It's not possible?
I'm just not going to pick any AFC. I don't think an AFC team is going to crack my top 3 of the contender rankings this year.
Okay, but there's a difference between can and will. And that's where I think I'm just leaving the door a little bit more open. Because, like, I can see the Lions really getting their shit together over these last 5 weeks. And, like, I'm not going to say that that's going to eliminate these concerns. Really? You can't see it? You can't see them just being totally dominant offensively. And we know that the defense actually has a fair bit of talent. Like, I'm not ready to write off the Texans' ability to make a run.
I'm not ready to write off the Texans either. I think the Texans have a top 2 unit in football. I just don't. I think, like I said, I think all of these little things have added up to a significant regression for Detroit. Again, not regression to they're not going to make the playoffs, but regression to I don't fear them as a real contender. Again, every big game they have had this year, they have lost. They've fallen flat. And I don't know. I feel burnt.
Well,
I feel burnt by Detroit. There's a little bit of emotion in here. I can't lie. Like Detroit's gotten me this year, and I'm just kind of fed up with it. And yeah, man, it's the offensive line, Goff's play in big moments. Amon-Ra's injury is very significant to me as well. I want to be clear about that. Like if he's not going to be available down the stretch, I'm a little bit more nervous about them. And I don't look at this defense as I think the defense is like fringe top 10. Like they're just not.
I know, but when you say
I like the Texans more than
offense,
Detroit
even if
right
they're
now,
flawed,
man. I'd be thinking about liking Denver more than Detroit right now. I'm serious, man. Like I
don't think that's crazy. My point is I'm not willing to write off any of these teams with the shit that we have seen from everybody. Dude, the Rams, who are my clear number 1, just lost a game to the Carolina Panthers. Like, it's that kind of NFL season.
I'm not ready to write the Rams off.
No. Oh, God, I would hope not. If you're ready to write off the Rams, you're literally going to be left with no teams. My point is there has been a week, if not multiple weeks, of this season where it is easy to get down on any one of these teams.
I think we're here, man. I think we're at the cutting. I think we're at the cutting board. It's a chopping block, man.
All right. Maybe I'm going to be anti-hot take, and I'm just going to say I'm not ready to do that with a team that I do still think has the talent that Detroit does. in this season. And Amon-Ra getting hurt in the first quarter of this game, like obviously that makes a difference for this offense. And I agree with you about some of these little areas of regression. And yet still this run game, I mean, they're top 5 in yards. They're second in yards per attempt. Gibbs is having like actually the best season of his career. Jameson Williams has been, although he's up and down, so explosive as a weapon. He's having the best year of his career on pace to like, there's still too much for me to like here, for me to make this game about Detroit when I think it was more about Green Bay. But I also won't write off your point about them losing the games they've played to really good teams. You know, obviously they destroyed Chicago. They seem different at that time. The Baltimore game felt huge and they beat Baltimore. Baltimore, well, I know they were number 3 in your contender rankings. Personally, I think they kind of suck. I think they're a very mediocre football team, but they have won a couple games that I guess you could spin as big games. But I don't disagree with your criticisms. I just think maybe you're seeing them as a bigger deal overall than I am. Should we rip the Band-Aid off, Logan? Should we talk about the Nerd Sesh Bowl? The Bills beat the Steelers 26-7. What'd you take away from it?
Steelers are a very sad, shitty football team.
Is that all?
That is really it. No, I mean, I have more written down. I'm just so fucking tired of the Steelers. I know exactly what I'm going to see every week. I'm so exhausted and uninspired. The Steelers are stale. They are prehistoric. I'm just tired. The offense is not good. The defense is very old. They allowed the most rushing yards in a game, in a home game, I think, since the Steelers have played at this location. So in the history of Three Rivers, which dates back to, I think, 2001 or 2002, it's the most rushing yards ever. Nobody comes into Pittsburgh and does that to the Steelers. That was embarrassing. I wanted to turn my TV off, and yet, even as I have been hopeless all season long, I sat there watching and waiting because in the first half, the Bills let us linger around. Brandon Eccles and Kyle Duggar came up huge and were making play after play to keep us alive. And that is how the Steelers have stayed alive, in every single game this year. They have gotten turnovers and they have gotten points off of turnovers to keep games close. And then in the second half, we get some negative turnover regression and nobody can stop James Cook. And it's like, I get it, man. Nobody can stop James Cook normally. He's one of the best running backs in football. He's awesome. They have 2 backup offensive linemen in. Like, the Steelers just look so utterly unprepared every time they play a real football team. And that's why I get frustrated when I hear people say, when they get all high on the Steelers after they've ripped off 3 or 4 straight wins and they say they can go toe-to-toe with anybody. And then I say, wait till Buffalo comes to town. Wait till Kansas City comes to town. And every time the Steelers play a real football team, they get their ass kicked. And Carson, I'm just heartbroken at this point in the season because the wheels are coming off and this is a sinking ship. These Steelers are really old and they are going downhill. Like, this is just going to get really ugly really fast. There's nothing to look forward to with the rest of this season. And I really fear that we are going to enter into some sort of rebuild or big-time tank this offseason, man. This team is so old. I just have some very concrete things to say about this offense. Rodgers is tied third to last in average depth of target, 6.3 yards. That's behind Dylan Gabriel and Kyler Murray. Aaron Rodgers is also tied third last in snap-to-throw time, 2.5 seconds. And so you can draw 3 conclusions about the Steelers' offense because of these 2 stats. The Steelers can't protect, Aaron Rodgers can't move, and the receivers can't separate. Because you may look at these and you go, oh, snap to throw. You want to get rid of the ball quickly. That's a good thing from Aaron Rodgers. They're not doing these things because they want to. They're doing these things out of necessity. Because when your offense is so comically limited with nobody on the offensive line that can protect. And that problem got exacerbated this week by the fact that Broderick Jones, as bad as he is, starts on this team, is out with a neck injury for the rest of the year because he's still one of the best tackles on this football team. They have to do these things because they have to. Because They don't have guys that can separate and win. They don't have offensive linemen that can protect and let routes develop downfield. Aaron Rodgers also can't create. Like, they are just so limited. Another thing that the Steelers do by necessity and not out of wanting is the jumbo sets. I mentioned this earlier in the year. All the big personnel that they go to, they go to them because they don't have a second wide receiver that can actually play. Like, oh my gosh, the Steelers are one of the biggest losers at the trade deadline this year when I look back at it, because they so desperately needed to go and make a move for a wide receiver too. Because if you think back to this offseason, they made a lot of win-now moves. They got DK Metcalf, they got Jalen Ramsey, and they got Aaron Rodgers. They have made a bunch of trades midseason this year to improve the secondary because they knew that they weren't good enough. These are moves of a team that is desperate and wants to win now. And the offense is the strength of this team, and it still sucks. And you look on the other side of this team, and it's the highest paid defense in the NFL, and they can't slow down anybody. The Buffalo Bills won a game today in which Josh Allen threw for 123 yards. Like, these aren't any even new conclusions that I am coming to after this game. It is something that I've just known about. It is the ugly truth that has been staring me in the face about this team all year long. And yet I get my hopes up. I think that maybe we can beat Buffalo after a good first half, and they shit all over themselves in the second half. Like, Carson, I'm not even optimistic about the rest of the year, man. I know the Steelers are going to miss the playoffs. We're going to go 9-8. We're going to go 8-9, some bullshit like that. I am just having a crisis right now because I don't know what the hell we're going to do this offseason, man.
Yeah.
Rodgers is gone. Cam Hayward is washed. TJ Watt is washed. We have all of this salary cap tied up and allotted to this old-ass defense that is just dwindling down. Mike Tomlin doesn't have the juice, man.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that is just leaving me so uninspired, man, is I don't get any sense of passion out of Mike Tomlin anymore, man. And the fans are clamoring for it. The fire Tomlin chants were louder than they've ever been before. And I just don't have the answers, Carson. The thing that is frustrating me the most as a diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan is the fact that there is no easy way out of this hole that we have dug for ourselves. We are in salary cap hell with one of the oldest rosters in football, with no building blocks for the future and no hot prospective head coaches that maybe we could turn to in this coaching cycle, where that's where all these people are going, fire Tomlin. For who? Like, we are just stuck in this rock in hard place, and the rock is Mike Tomlin in one of the oldest rosters in football with no path to contention, man. The Steelers are so close, and yet they are so far away in so many ways, man. They are walking in place, man, chasing their own tail, and they have been doing this for 5 years now, man. I want to be somewhere else, Carson. I want to be anywhere else other than no man's land where we have been. Yeah. I want to suck, or I want to be competitive, and I just want to bite the bullet and be done with it. Now I am tired of toiling away in mediocrity.
As you should be, dude. It's just gone too far. Like, I have been a Tomlin defender. They showed this stat on the broadcast today that the Steelers, if they are able to go above 500 this year, will have the longest streak in NFL history in terms of consecutive seasons without a losing record. And they're tied right now with the Tom Landry Cowboys.
You know what's ironic?
What?
You know what's ironic?
Tell me. Just tell me.
Do you know how that saga ended with the Cowboys?
How?
1988, they fire Tom Landry after 3 more seasons where they win 7 games, and they bottom out at 3-13. Like, it's not pretty, man.
And they get...
Well, they got Jimmy Johnson. If we could do that, I'm in. I'm game.
Well, I was about to say, I mean, then they get Aikman in 89, and then they immediately reset and, like, have the greatest rebuild damn near in NFL history, and they're a little mini dynasty.
I'm game. My point was, Hall of Fame coach, coaching legend for the franchise, that ended really ugly.
Yeah, I
And
mean, the
I
guy was
got a
wearing a
feeling
fedora in the late 80s,
swag,
it was time.
swag.
Mike Tomlin is doing the equivalent of that when it comes to football
Yes,
decision
yes,
making.
he
If I
is,
remember
man.
correctly, I mean, was there an inside zone on 3rd and 9? Or there was some run to Kenneth
Fourth and
Gainwell?
oh
No, there was a 3rd and 9 where they
yeah,
handed the
no, you're
ball off to
exactly right.
Kenneth
Right up the
Gainwell.
middle, right up the middle.
Like, between that and the cowardly punts, there's just no more defending him, because I understand that there is a pride that the Steelers have as an organization. And I always think in the NFL, there is value in winning football games. It is very different from the NBA. I think when it comes to the necessity of tanking, like obviously draft picks are always at a premium in both sports, but oftentimes in the NBA, there are more true blue chip talents who separate themselves at the top. Whereas the NFL, it's more about the volume of draft picks and just drafting well, because you can hit on quality starters in the 3rd, 4th round, right? And so sometimes those things happen much more quickly. Sometimes you don't need to tank. Like, that's why I have always commended Tomlin for being able to find ways to win, to get the most out of his talent with shitty quarterback play. At the same time, I was kind of viewing that through the lens of, okay, this is an intermediary period where you have all these shitty quarterbacks, and eventually you're going to break out of this. And what has become clear instead is that this is the self-deluded goal of the Pittsburgh Steelers: to win 9 games, to win 10 games, to get their asses kicked, to overspend on a defense that isn't great anymore, and to find whatever veteran, decent enough quarterback they can. Aaron Rodgers, he's doing his best. He's had a pretty good season overall. He's 41 years old. He was awful in this game. The offense was so inept, dude. They had 100 total yards going into the 4th quarter. Like, there is no value in this anymore, because you're not staying afloat until the breakthrough comes. You have invested resources in a way that is specifically inhibiting the possibility of a breakthrough. It's not going to happen when you're spending on TJ, Jalen Ramsey, even DK, like they are, like these older guys who are absolutely very good football players, but are not ultimately going to make the difference this team needs to take the leap. And it's the totality of their allocation of resources and just their philosophy as a football team. I just think Tomlin, he's done. He's cooked. This era has passed him by, and I'm officially all on board with the fire Tomlin. And just like
the game has
changed direction,
man.
Yeah,
the game has changed. Like, Mike Tomlin is a dinosaur, and
yeah.
I always have to. I love Mike Tomlin. He is a Hall of Fame coach whenever he steps out. I think he is too old. I really think the game has just passed him by. I don't think he knows what wins football games in the big 2025, man.
Yeah, if you just go back year after year, and we know the story, but 2021, you're a 9-win team, and it's a 3-touchdown loss to the Chiefs in the first round of the playoffs. 2022, 9 wins, just miss it. 2023, 10 wins, 2-touchdown loss to the Bills in the first round. 2024, 10 wins, 2-touchdown loss to the Ravens in the wild card. Like, it's the same story every single season with just a very slightly different presentation of whatever mediocre to bad quarterback is going to be out there.
And I mean, dude, one of the most telling things to me too is, like, since the Steelers went to the Super Bowl, they have 3 playoff wins. This is sad to say. This is since the 2011 playoffs. They have 3 playoff wins, and those wins came against AJ McCarron, Alex Smith, and Matt Moore. Like,
and dude, I mean, obviously you're emphasizing that those are not good quarterbacks. Also think about those names. Matt Moore, dude. Like, just think about how long ago that was. AJ McCarron. This is a totally different era of football.
Obama was in office, man.
The Obama administration. So there's no revelations on the Steelers front, but I just think you've reached and passed the breaking point, and this game was just so ugly. And frankly, Logan, pathetic. And I don't think there's really anything good to even say about the Bills in this game. I thought the Bills played a bad football game.
Agreed.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the first half was just so horrific. So I would like to give props to the defense. I thought the Bills defense played well, the run game, but the offense did not look good. And like, I'll be consistent here. This isn't biased, people. I'm talking about my own football team here. Okay. I am not a win is a win is a win kind of guy. I think the way in which you win matters a lot when we're projecting, because Playoff upside is not determined by how many regular season games you won. It's determined by how good you actually are. And so, yeah, it's good to win a game, right? Everybody just wants to win a game. The Bills have to make the playoffs first, but this is not the formula for them to win football games. Like, I don't trust the defense. It had a lot to do with the Steelers' offense being as bad as they are. And against a good team, like the Bills cannot ever put up 3 points in the first half and hope to have a prayer of winning that football game. And that's what they did today. And they ended up winning easily because the Steelers suck.
Do you want to hear a crazy stat?
Lay it on me.
From this game. Brooke Pryor tweeted this out. Shout out. Love her work.
Big ups.
Through the first 3 quarters of play, the Steelers failed to gain a singular yard of offense on 43% of their snaps.
Whew.
A yard.
Yeah, that's so brutal. And you talk about the limitations of the offense, like they're second in terms of most completions to running backs. I mean, they've been top of the league in this heavy personnel
what this
usage.
has done, because another reason why I say this is the most important stretch of football for teams is also because this is the adjustment period of the season where now teams have a substantial amount of tape on you and they know what you're trying to do. Teams aren't afraid of the Steelers' second wide receiver, if it's Roman Wilson, if it's Calvin Austin, if whoever it is. And so they are putting extra defenders on the side of DK Metcalf because he's our only threat. Like, I understand the Pickens thing is complicated, but the Steelers certainly look like the ones with egg on their face after that move. You would much rather be paying a guy like that. And oh my gosh, it would have probably worked. Because the only thing you ever needed was a quarterback. Like Rodgers throwing Pickens and Metcalf the ball, that's awesome. And I get it. Like I said, he was a head case. I think both sides had gotten fed up with each other. I think it was Pickens wanted out. Like, I think they did that trade for him. But when you
we would never have gotten this version of George Pickens in Pittsburgh.
You never would have.
Likely.
You're exactly right. But my point here fundamentally is you so desperately needed a wide receiver too, and you just gave him up. Like,
yeah.
And it's such a comically big need. Like, the offense is just limited. And then the other damning thing about this game, and I'm going to get off it because it's just going to raise my blood pressure. The fact that the Bills haven't been able to stop anybody on the ground today, and we just can't get the running game going whatsoever. It's just so embarrassing. Like, everyone this is one of the league's worst rushing defenses, and we can't even get it going with Jalen Warner, Kenneth Gainwell. The Steelers are sad. The Steelers are sorry. And I am going to be okay if the Steelers trade off some of these old guys for future. I'm done. And for TJ Watt's sake, send him someplace send him to somewhere. Send him to Buffalo. Send him to where somebody is going to appreciate him and help him win a playoff game. Cam's too old. He got no value. Like, just, I'm cool with it, man. Clean house, restart. I am okay with losing and moving in a new direction. I am numb to this era of football, and I am so tired of chasing my tail. I don't get my hopes up about the Steelers anymore, and I would just rather look to the future, man. I think it is just time.
No, it's absolutely time. In fact, it's past time. So it has to happen. For the Bills, I thought this was underwhelming. I mean, the reliance on the run game was crazy, and it worked. It worked, but 51 attempts on the ground is crazy. 249 yards, though. The great James Cook was doing work in this one. Also, Ray Davis. I mean, 2 different stretches. He came in and just ripped back-to-back first down runs. So he's been really finding a role. I mean, he made some really dynamic plays in the return game the other week. I like the totality of the Bills running back room, but this is sort of a two-sided issue where it's like, yes, the run game is great and they can rely on it a lot. At the same time, the extent to which this offense has gotten so conservative is frustrating. And part of it is personnel in terms of pass catchers, not having those guys who can take the top off of defense, not having the speed, not having the playmakers, not even having a Dalton Kincaid on the field. But it is also play calling. I just think Joe Brady, to me, desperately lacks creativity. I think he has gotten overly obsessed with this identity of being a smash mouth football team, of effectively taking the ball out of Josh's hands. I mean, we have one of the highest screen frequencies in football, and that works sometimes.
You didn't think that was a good call today? I really loved his game plan in this game. I thought with the way Josh had played in the first half and how you guys were just gashing us, like I would have
It's
done the
fine. It was
same
enough to
thing.
win this game. My thing is,
Yeah.
Logan, it's not
I ag-
about beating the Steelers.
no, it's not.
That's
I
not the
agree.
ceiling for this team.
Fundamentally, I agree with your point. I'm just saying in this game, like
It
I'm
worked.
okay with it.
No, they were more effective on the ground. It worked to win this football game, but there are certain moments where you're like, all right, we won't even open this up with a play action bootleg here. We are literally just running the ball every single time. These are just
Can I ask
recurring
you?
frustrations I have with this offense more than anything about this game.
Do you think you guys need Kincaid to go on a run? Because I kind of think you do.
I think Kincaid is really important, especially because Khalil Shakir doesn't run routes for us anymore, and he's just exclusively a screen guy, which is another thing that doesn't make sense about this offense to me. I just have some frustrations there, and like Josh just hasn't looked the same in a lot of these recent weeks as he did last year. I mean, I know who Josh Allen is, but there have been more frustrating performances where he's a little bit out of sync. He's made some more questionable decisions, taken more negative plays overall. I think after this year, I'm just done with these coaches. I mean, I've been done with Sean McDermott, but Brady, when he came in, it was like, oh my God, thank goodness you're saving us from Ken Dorsey, who was an idiot. And now I'm like, maybe Brian Dable should just be the head coach of this football team. I don't know. I'm just so frustrated. Like, it's a 19-point win, but the Bills
Damn,
of
man,
2025 are the least enjoyable
do
watch
do
since
you
the
actually
2020
miss
breakout.
Brian Dable like that? You don't think he was a Josh Allen merchant?
He was the best offensive mind we've had. I mean, just when it comes to actual creative route concepts. I also think we absolutely had the best receiver talent of the Josh Allen era when Dable was there. And he did a lot of work with him, I think, in terms of mechanic stuff and some of like those early career steps that Josh needed to take, that obviously all that stuff is long figured out now, thanks to Dable. But yeah, I like him more than Joe Brady. It doesn't have to be Dable, but I just think changes are needed. It's not really a fun watch right now, but a win is a win. Also, like just some of the procedural stuff. This was an offense that last year, even though they didn't have like that high-end playmaker at receiver, they always stayed ahead of schedule. The offensive line was dominant. They never took sacks. They never turned the ball over. Like there was a consistency that made them one of 6 offenses this century to average 3 points per drive before everybody sat out. Josh sat out in the last game of the regular season, and they dipped below that. This year, there's just been more like down moments. I mean, some of these false starts over the last couple weeks, they're the 9th most penalized offensive line this season. Like the 4th and 1, where they're trying to get a touchdown on this 8-minute drive at the end of the
I would have
half.
exploded, man.
Yeah, it's terrible. And like last week, they have a 4th and 1 against the Texans to potentially win the football game. They're down 4. They need a touchdown. They have to go. Deion Dawkins false starts. He has a false start problem. He doesn't even play in this game. It's Alec Anderson starting, who was just a little bit too excited. Like, there's just more shit that's pissing me off with the Bills this year than there has been in a long time. So they get a win. I'll stop moaning because it's not the most important game of the week. But really, I thought this was more so just pretty embarrassing for the Steelers and just like a really disgusting offensive performance. And we'll leave it at that because we got to talk about another game in the AFC North, Logan. We'll go back to the Thanksgiving nightcap. And then I think we're going to pretty much breeze through the rest of the games after this because we've already been going for a while. But there were a lot of good games this week. They definitely juiced up the Thanksgiving week slate. Bengals, Ravens. Joe Burrow returns to action, and he takes down Baltimore. Logan, we had an extensive debate when we did our last contender rankings where we were very far apart on Baltimore. You were much higher on them. I was quite low on them, despite the ironic fact that preseason, I was really high on Baltimore. I was the one who was saying when they were 1-5 because of the schedule, because of how bad the Steelers are, I still think Baltimore's going to win the division. I don't like anything that I'm seeing from them. This is what I was saying last week. Have you come closer to my side after this performance, or are you still holding out hope with Baltimore?
I mean, I think they're better than they looked in this game, but Baltimore phony too, still better than Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
AFC North chopped.
Sucks. AFC North sucks in the Big 2025. No doubt about that. Yeah. I really don't like what we're seeing from Baltimore, man.
It kind of made me mad. Like I actually just kind of completely agree with you about the conversation that we had during basically everything that you said in response to my Ravens take. I kind of agree with now. You're like,
Hell yeah.
your fundamental take, and I was just like going over it in my head. Like I was mentally trying to fill in the blanks for the AFC because I was panicking so hard that, and then I'm still there. I don't know who I guess I'm Denver Broncos pilled now. I'm just going to go full Bo Nix and we'll just see what happens. Yeah. You're right. I just don't think the Ravens are that good.
Like, this is what I'm saying. The Bills have had great performances. The Chiefs have had great performances. And even if they've both been underwhelming, they've had that. We've seen their A+ strengths. The Ravens have not looked like a good football team for basically the entire season. Lamar coming back has not changed that whatsoever. Lamar is struggling. His last 5 weeks since he returned to action, he's got 5 total touchdowns. 4 of those came in one game against the Dolphins. So the last 4 weeks, he has 1 touchdown. He's got 5 turnovers. He's got an 85 pass rating, 214 total yards per game. He's barely scrambling in terms of actually gaining yardage on the ground. Like, he's been really bad. He had 3 ugly turnovers in this game, and this is against the Bengals without Trey Hendrickson. Like, this is a historically awful defense. This is a defense that is bottom of the barrel in every conceivable way. And Lamar sucked, and they sucked, and they had 2 more turnovers. And I know who Lamar is. I expect him to turn things around, but it's problematic when he's playing at this level that has been so underwhelming and so below his standard for an extended stretch now. And I also just think like they kind of suck in the trenches on both sides of the ball. I think their offensive line is below average. I think their defensive line is bad. And like, I just haven't been moved by the defense, which has all this talent on paper, but they were horrible early in the year. And like, they quote unquote turned it around only against 4 of the absolute worst offenses in the sport that they played in this ridiculously light stretch of the schedule. Now they come back, and again, turnovers didn't help them at all, but they let up 32 to the Bengals. Like, I don't think they're a top 8 team in the AFC, Logan. I think every other team in the playoff picture currently is better than them. I think clearly the Texans and the Chiefs are better than them. Like, they're still going to make the playoffs because the AFC North fucking sucks, and they have had this total light schedule as of late. And I think that that's going to be enough to get them through, but I am extremely low on them. They just haven't looked good for so long. And there comes a point where we're 12 games deep. And if you haven't shown me anything, man, and I truly mean that. I mean, we've talked about some underwhelming teams. You've written off some teams you've been disappointed by. Nobody has showed us less than the Baltimore Ravens in terms of teams that had high preseason expectations. Like, they haven't beaten a 500 team with Lamar Jackson on the field. They have only beat the shittiest that the league has to offer, and not even convincingly. They are a negative point differential team. Like, I'm just not going to give you the benefit of the doubt when we have seen overwhelmingly mediocrity. That being said, 9 wins probably wins the AFC North, and I think that the Ravens probably still take both head-to-head games over Pittsburgh, and that's all it takes. Maybe they split, though. I mean, that's totally possible. It's basically a mid-off. I did not think the Baltimore Ravens were going to be involved in mid-offs coming into this year, but everything they have indicated week after week is that that is exactly where they are.
I completely agree. I have nothing to add.
What about the Bengals? Are you moved by the 4-8 Bengals? Are they going to make a push for this division? They're only 2 games out. No?
Did you have me thinking, like, if there's a chance that would be so cringe if, like, the 2025 AFC North pulled a, was it 2008 NFC West, like, and they make it
2010, I want to say.
I think you're right. One of those years with Matt Hasselbeck, and the year of the Beastquake. I think the Beastquake Seahawks, I think they ended up beating the Saints.
It's 7-9. Yeah, that's the year that was 2010.
7-9 year.
Seahawks.
Yeah, like, I guess there's that's actually in play. There is a chance that could happen, that an 8-9 team could win this division. There's a chance, man. I don't know. The AFC North is so stinky and poopy, and every AFC North game is always like this. It's always so weird, and there's freaky turnovers, and it's always cold and snowing and raining, and the wind is blowing 15 miles an hour to the right. And yeah, man, I have no idea. I'm going to take Baltimore because I like Lamar Jackson the most out of the bunch, and the Steelers are a known really bad football team. So I guess I'll take Baltimore. Cincinnati I still don't believe in this defense.
No, the Bengals are not good. I mean, their season is still cooked. Pretty obviously to me, like they would have to win out. Maybe 8 wins could do it, but fuck, that'd be depressing. And like, I don't think they're even going to win 4 out of 5. Like Trey is still out. T is still out. This is a team that has 4 really, really good football players and a lot of shit around them. And 2 of those really, really good football players are hurt right now. So it's good to see Burrow back out on the field. Like, even though this season is sunk, it's nice to at least not see him miss another entire campaign effectively. But obviously his injury just kind of finalized what was already a dark fate for this team this year, in my opinion, because they just don't have a good roster at all. I saw a lot of discourse about the fumble out of the end zone rule after this, people freaking out once again about that being a touchback. I'm good with that rule, Logan. I think there is a element of how we treat breaking the plane that benefits the offense in the sense that the second you break that plane, it's over with. It doesn't matter if you fumble after you've crossed that line with possession, like that's an advantage to the offense. So I think it also makes sense that there is a consequence for like consistently extending the football, putting it in harm's way that benefits the defense. This is a conversation that has been going on forever, will go on forever, but people are always railing against that rule, and I don't agree with it. The railing against it, that is. I'm good with the rule.
No, I love the rule. I think it makes perfect
sense. You
sense.
love the rule because you're a defensive football kind of guy and you're a ball security kind of guy.
Damn right.
Good. The other thing I saw everybody freaking out about was the Eagles going for 2 down 9, which is the right thing to do. You want information. You want to see, okay, is this going to be a 1-score game or are we going to need 2 scores? In other words, if you wait to attempt the 2-point conversion and you don't get it, then the game is over. If you go for it now and you don't get it, then you know that you need 2 scores. You need to get an onside kick. And so there's no like real benefit to thinking, oh, but we're in this game where we're only down 8. It's 1 score as opposed to 2 scores. In fact, Greg Olson pulled some data. The forward thinking Greg Olson.
He did.
Which I thought was awesome, which is that defenses are actually better at generating stops when down 9+ than they are when down 8. So there is no logic to the idea that you should wait to go for it that holds up. The only feasible argument, which is some psychological component, has been statistically disproven, and you are better off getting that information earlier and figuring out what you need. And that is my take on 2 things that I saw being talked about a lot that ultimately I think there's a lot of unnecessary outrage about, and that's that. All right, let's breeze through the rest of these games, Logan. Seahawks, Vikings, the Sam Darnold revenge game, 26-0 victory. What'd you take away?
Not a damn thing.
Hell yeah.
Free Justin Jefferson.
Free Jettas, but free 9, dude. Because if 9 was on that field, shit would have been different, bro. If 9 got that crazy look in his eye, if 9 activated killer mode, if 9 activated natty mode, this is a champion. This is a psycho we're talking about. It would have been curtains for the Seahawks.
I call him 9.
He's a problem. Shout out to the Seahawks defense. They're insane. They absolutely dominated Max Brosmer. It'll be funny to see if people use this as like a with or without you argument for JJ. Like, look at what happens when he's off the field, as if people were holding a lot of Max Brosmer stock, the undrafted rookie who was a 3rd stringer, or also as if it wouldn't have also been a disaster with JJ against this nutty Seahawks defense. But yeah, 4 sacks, 4 turnovers. They are just a ridiculous unit. Also, though, I want to give credit to the Minnesota defense. They know how to deal with their old boy, Sammy Darnold. They blitzed the shit out of him, and I actually thought that it worked. I actually thought the Minnesota defense played really well. It just didn't matter when you're giving the ball away that much and you're giving the opposing team a defensive touchdown and you can't move the ball whatsoever. Jets, Falcons, Logan. This one went down to the wire. Did you take away anything from it? Sort of a shit off, if you will.
Yeah, Aaron Glenn's growing on me. I mean, like when we're talking about these organizational things, like with bad teams like this, you can't glean a whole lot. But I've come to 2 conclusions from this game, and I already reached this conclusion with Atlanta. I'm ready to clean house. Atlanta has had firm control of about 4 to 5 games now this year where they have had the lead and could theoretically coast against teams that I just don't think have the talent that their team does this year, where like they would be in the hunt to win this division wholeheartedly if they had just closed games out better. And when your team is repeatedly coming up short in moments like this in big ways with bad blunders, I think that's a reflection on coaching. And so for Atlanta, I'm ready to clean house, start over with a new front office and basically top to bottom there. And then the Jets, I really do like Aaron Glenn. I liked his comments in the presser afterwards, him talking about just the importance of not punting on games, even though, the season is lost. He's really just emphasizing, the importance of growth in the moment and here right now. So I like Aaron Glenn. I don't like Raheem Morris, basically my takes from this game.
Yeah, the Falcons are so disappointing and just so shitty ultimately. I'm going to shout out A.D. Mitchell. I thought that he had a really impressive game, and you just see the value of his speed and what he can bring you in terms of big play potential. I mean, he just straight up ran past Mike Hughes on a deep post that went for a long touchdown. So a lot of people, I think, totally bailed on him, viewed him as a nothing in the Sauce Gardner trade. And I said, look, he hasn't been good, but he has shown an ability to separate. Thought there were some missed opportunities to get him the ball with Anthony Richardson just being so inaccurate last year. And then this year, he just kind of fell out of favor with the Colts after his fuck-ups against the Rams. But there's some talent there. It's not nothing. And I think he has proven that that is not nothing. So that was a nice little extra sweetener in that deal for the Jets, at the least a deal that I really do like the return they got on. Okay, Jags, Titans, a dominant win for Jacksonville. 3 words. Give me 3 words.
Pound that rock.
I love it. Jacoby Myers rocks. Jacoby Myers was cooking in this game, just dominating over the middle of the field. I really like him as an addition. Dare I say, Logan, he's the best receiver on this team.
Dude, him and Parker Washington been cooking recently, man.
I like Parker too, and it was good to see a T-Law bounce back game after. I mean, he got them the win last week. He had some high highs. He also had some really low lows. This was a steadier performance. Okay, let's stay with a Florida team. Bucks, Cardinals. Tampa Bay wins. What'd you take away?
Nothing. I mean, I don't think the Cardinals are a good football team. They're kind of a barometer. Like if you lose to the Cardinals, you're really bad.
Yeah.
I don't know about worried about Tampa Bay, but I'm sweating a little bit with how Carolina's been looking, man. Like I really thought Tampa Bay, with how Atlanta was faltering, was just gonna, even with all their injuries, just coast to this division. It's not so clear. Like Tampa Bay just, they haven't, and I really do. I think it's just the Mike Evans effect. Like I think people who take Mike Evans for credit really, or for granted, really need to.
What should we do to them? What should we do to them?
Make them watch Mike Evans.
Oh, that's actually a pretty sweet reward.
I think you guys should watch Mike Evans with the Bucks when he's not there, and then watch Mike Evans when he's not there, and just see how much worse the Bucks are.
I was thinking maybe like put him in an Iron Maiden or something. But
is that the band?
No, Logan, that is a mythical medieval torture device. I believe it did not actually exist, but it was invented, I want to say, in the 1800s retroactively, and they claimed, ooh, look at how grisly things were in the Middle Ages, but it wasn't actually real, but they put it in museums, and they were like, oh my God, look at what they used to do to people. But I could be wrong on all of that. So that's why you have a podcast, Logan. You just get to come on here and just say stuff sometimes about stuff that is not at all your area of expertise. And that's why you have a platform, and that's why what we do is so important.
Are you worried
about Tampa Bay
being stuffed in an Iron Maiden?
No. Are you planning on doing that to me? It was my idea. You can't do it. I'll sue you. That's my IP. That's thought theft, and I won't allow it. Yeah, this is the average Bucks win this year, dude. Like, no hate, no disrespect. It's an ugly, close win against a shitty team. Uninspiring. Yeah. Like, there's been a lot of that. I think Tampa Bay, barring a dramatic turnaround, they feel like a very obvious first-round exit. Win a really weak division and then get beaten by a better team and a strong NFC. Dolphins, Saints, Logan. The Miami Dolphins are hot, hot, hot. They've won 3 of 4. Are you moved? Wait. Contender? Wait. Super Bowl threat?
They're going to win the Super Bowl. Tua threw his 14th pick today, buddy. How about that? Leads the league in picks this year. Oh, yeah. Best quarterback in the league. I heard. Somebody would say.
He's so bad. He's so bad. What I like about the Dolphins, though, is that they don't put the ball into his hands so much anymore. They just say, let's get the ball to Devon Achane in every way that we can, and he is incredible. He is incredible, Logan. I was talking about Jahmyr Gibbs being the most efficient ball carrier in terms of yards per carry ever with 500-plus carries, or since the merger in terms of running backs. Achane isn't at that carry mark yet, but he's also at 5.5 yards per carry. I mean, he's been
speedy guys, man.
And so shifty and so good in the receiving game. He's amazing. And look, Mike McDaniel, he's fighting for his job. He's fighting for his job. I don't know if he's going to save it, but I at least give him some props for figuring shit out enough for Miami to not be the most embarrassing dumpster fire of this season, which it looked like they were going to be, even as Tua clearly is one of the absolute worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL. McDaniel, he's doing good work and has found that schematic genius of his that makes him appealing as a head coach. So maybe even if it's somewhere else, like there was a time where I was thinking, yeah, he's going to be the hottest OC candidate. Maybe people will give him another chance to be a head coach, but he's certainly got the football brain to be in important positions for somebody, even if it's not Miami. Chargers, Raiders. The Raiders got their shit clapped.
I just feel bad for Justin Herbert and Geno. Herbert.
Yes. Wait, let's unpack that. Let's expand on that.
I mean, just under incredible duress. I think he's probably going to miss the rest of the season, I would guess. I think he's going to have surgery on that left hand for whatever's broken. So I don't think he would be back. I mean, it seems like it. I can't confirm that, but I know he's going to have surgery on that. I mean, just under an insane amount of pressure all game long, no time to throw.
Sorry. The update is he hopes to actually not miss time.
What a tough
his
SOB,
quote,
man.
It's one of those things where you just stabilized it, and I'm not the doctor, unfortunately. Good disclaimer. We thought maybe you were, but they were hopeful. So I think that's a good thing.
Okay, so maybe
Herbert he continues to persist in the not his fault. They couldn't just give him the worst offensive line ever. Now they had to take his hand, and he's still going to be out there.
Same thing for Geno too, man. Some of the stories about what Chip Kelly was doing with Geno just made me feel really bad. Carson, I'm kind of wondering if Chip Kelly shorted some of your Geno Smith plushie stock, and this was just an elaborate insider trading scheme hatched by him. They said that Chip Kelly was sending in plays to Geno Smith that didn't exist in the playbook. Man, like, I just think there had to be some sort of financial incentive or something extra at play here, man. Chip Kelly just wouldn't do that.
Your intuition, as always, Logan, is right on the money. I can't speak about this because of legal issues, but I will say it is being investigated by the league, by our legal team over here at Nerd Sesh, and action will be taken because what Chipper, whatever you want to call him, was doing, it was unacceptable. And to our glorious King Geno, he fights on, he persists, but yeah, not a ton to take away from this football game. The Raiders are really awful. Chargers keep finding ways to win. Good for them. Great game from Vidal, and LA takes care of business. But yeah, hopefully Herbert's okay. Hopefully he doesn't miss time, because if he does miss time, things are going to look ugly for LA. All right, last game on the slate, Niners, Browns. Logan Shedeur could not come away with a win in this one, or really come very close. What did you take away?
Not a ton. I will say the biggest thing for me is just, I think you've seen how awesome Robert Saleh is as a DC. Not that this matchup is too tough. I just think Saleh has been so awesome returning. You know, very similar situations to last year. Last year was on 10, but like a bunch of injuries. You're missing a ton of guys. Defense falls off a cliff. This year, you're missing a ton of guys. Lost a lot of guys to free agency last year. And the defense has been pretty good in the absence of those guys and without them. And I just think that speaks to how great Saleh is as a defensive coordinator and as an elevator of defensive talent. And Shedeur had some ups and downs, and that's kind of just going to be the story for what the Browns get the rest of the year. Just like that's kind of the only important thing. I thought took a really bad sack that took them out of field goal range early in this game. Later in this game, had a really nice TD throw to Harold Fannin. So it's just kind of like, finding that balance, limiting negative plays, maximizing good opportunities. But I still like his tools. Every game I watch with Shedeur, I like his tools, and I hope he can continue making marginal improvements. But I really like the Niners, man. I just every week, even no matter who it is, I know this is a win against Cleveland. I'm always impressed with the Niners.
Great organization for sure. That being said, this is the expectation for this one, obviously. I don't have a ton of takes on the Shedeur game. I will say he held that football, and that's going to be the biggest challenge for him. I think he held it for like 3.4 seconds, lost 34 yards on sacks. You mentioned the one big one that he took. So he's got to get better about that. That being said, still injects more explosiveness into this offense than the alternatives. He has 4 completions of 30-plus yards this year. Dillon Gabriel had 0, Logan. Dillon Gabriel's longest completion, I believe, was 26 yards. He started 6 games for this football team. Like, it's unbelievable. And I'm really happy that they at least made the change and they said, we're going to go with Shedeur for the rest of the year, because why the hell not when you consider what you were getting from Dillon Gabriel and just how low that ceiling was. And also, even the floor was quite low. So nothing really of note here, although I'm sure there will be many, many, many hours of Shedeur discourse to come out of it. Let's get to these super chats as my body is falling apart. I'm sick again, Logan. I was sick like 2 weeks ago. I'm sick again. You hear it in my voice. My nose is stuffed, and I'm just falling apart here. But Colin says, Logan, last week you closed the show. Now I need to see you do the whole closing shift. Tell me about the Discord. Love y'all, though. Keep pushing the content. Logan, are you ready for that? For the big leagues?
I was born ready.
All right, let's see if you're really up to the task. Let's just say I make it look a little easier than it is. All right, we'll see if you're a big game player or if you're just a big mouth. Oh, there you go. I said it. Thank you, Colin, for your generous donation. 1D Theater Nerd. Thank you for your generous donation, the Nerd Sesh Foundation. I was going to ask when we were going to talk about Ben Johnson for Coach of the Year, but I think he got adequate glaze today. P.S. Y'all are some of my comfort creators, so thank you for that. Sending love from West Virginia. Sending love right back to you in West Virginia, although Logan might not. Logan might say some heinous shit about West Virginia because he takes the Virginia-West Virginia rivalry seriously. He's probably going to tell you, John Denver, you know, John Denver was singing about Western Virginia, not West Virginia.
That's true. That's true. But shout out to you, bro. Thank you for donation. Also, Ben Johnson, I think, would be my coach of the year. Shout out Steichen. Him and Ben is really close, but Ben Johnson has the Bears. He's got the Bears in the number 1 seed. Like, come on, man. I think you got to give it to him.
Yeah, the Ben Johnson case just keeps getting better. The Steichen case just keeps weakening a little bit, but I think they're both great. I think Vrabel is the betting favorite. Vrabel would not be my pick because he has a Drake May.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It's not a bad take, but like he has a Drake May. Mike McDonald's really good. He's really good. I wouldn't be pissed, but I think I would go with Ben Johnson right now. I mean, I got to shout out Liam Cohen and I got to shout out Kyle Shanahan because I've been shouting out them all year. Even though neither of them is going to win, they at least belong in the conversation somewhere. Yaya, with a basketball question. Do you guys think SGA better than Wade peak for peak? We are going to talk a lot about where SGA's peak ranks very, very soon, Logan, aren't we?
We will.
But yes, that's all I'll say for now. Yes. And I felt that way last year, and we actually did talk about it a bit. But I just think like the ridiculous efficiency that Shea generates for you as a scorer with this overwhelming on-ball volume, taking care of the basketball as well as he does, while having this incredible driving and free throw drawing ability like D Wade, but also having like legitimately elite mid-range shot making. I mean, D Wade had some legitimate mid-range shots as a counter, but not to the level of Shea where he could shoot 50% on those shots on crazy volume. And Shea having the fact that, you know, this year now he's shooting 42% from deep on 5+ attempts per game. Even last year, he shot the 3 really well in the regular season. I think that Shea is overall just the more impactful offensive engine. I think what Shea is doing this season is absolutely out of this world. He is averaging 33 and almost 7 assists per game on 68% true shooting, bro. Like, it's the most efficient on-ball guard at this volume that we've ever seen. And I'll leave it at that. I said I was going to leave it at saying that Shea is better than D-Wade, and then I said more because, Logan, nobody yaps like me, man. 2.5 hours a pod with you.
It's a
So
great
delightful.
preview because if you want more on that topic, you guys can actually come right back here later in the week. Carson, I think we're going to shoot 2 more podcasts later in this week.
That's right. That's right.
And it's all going to be right here on YouTube and all other audio platforms. Like, you can find it everywhere. And then if that's not enough Nerd Sesh content for you, I know you're a fiend. You can also find us on all social platforms, on TikTok and Instagram at Nerd Sesh, and on Twitter at Nerd_Sesh. Dude, we got clips from the show. We got graphics. Yeah. Oh, and if that's not enough content, you can come right back to YouTube and get some longer form videos. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe like a basketball breakdown from Carson. He's been dropping like 1 a week. Are you this many?
I'm counting all the different features of Nerd Sesh content. Keep going.
Yeah. And you can get clips from the show on social. And then if that's not enough for you, you could come and like talk with us in the Discord at the link in our bio. With that, like, thank you guys for hanging out this entire time. If you're not watching live, thank you for getting to this point in the video. And like I said, we're going to be back later with this week. So with that, I've been Logan Campton.
I've been Carson Breber.
This has been Nerd Sesh.